Okay, and here I am, back live. Hoping you guys come and sign back up. I'll just wait a minute before people start coming in. Yeah, there I am, Colleen. I'm back. Let me just warm up my coffee. Give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, coffee's warm. Tim Stout's back. Timon's here. I gotta load up this live on the computer here so I could see the chat, because I don't want to keep squinting and touching the screen. I want to be able to concentrate here, you know what I mean? And I should pop back up on the main YouTube homepage. So hopefully everybody comes back. Okay, Jim Richards is here, much better. Yeah, okay, perfect. Adrian Whitehead's back. Okay, yeah. Tim Hortons, aka Timmy Hose, best coffee in Canada. I don't know. I find this Starbucks coffee is like, it's like Greek coffee. It's like um, watered down like molasses or something, man. Or well, molasses is kind of sweet but bitter. I don't like molasses, but it just, I don't know. It's like syrupy and it's like really strong. I don't know. Anyways, okay. I think I got to go to my YouTube studio here, and I know what I got to do. I got to search up my own channel. Okay, BK's back. BC Gerbs here. Congrats. Thanks for the congratulations. It's a lot of work, man. You know, we'll get into that again soon, and we'll talk about that. And we're just going through a few things here about the pros and cons about the new wood yard. But of course, we got to talk a lot about you know, getting to this point where I'm at today with the channel. Yeah, my internet's slow, man. That's for sure. Like, you know, I'm searching and I'm waiting for this stuff to come in, right? So, okay, so now I got the chat open here. Or almost. It's just taking a second to load up. BC Derby getting close to 500. Nice, man. Yeah, I can mention you in my channel and help you get a few more subs. Anybody that's there for now, just go and sub to that channel. Okay, so what I was saying about the coffee is to get coffee on the way to the wood yard, there's a couple places that I can go on the way. Oh, it's running commercial. Let me put this on mute.
Keep it all moving.
Okay, yeah, so, well, you have a blowing snow advisory tomorrow. Okay, and it's all flat there, so it's extra windy, and you guys get hammered. You know, you guys get the harsher side of the weather. You know, if it's not sheltered like here in the city. You have buildings and stuff, or you have hill valleys and this and that, right? Look at that. BC says Tim Hortons coffee, gotta love it, of course, man. You know, yeah. So there's a couple places on the way to the wood yard. One is when you're heading that way, it's, you know, you just turn right into the driveway. The other one, if I'm coming back from the wood yard way, maybe to finish up at the shop or drop the truck off at the shop, there's one on that way with the drive-through. But if I miss the one on the way there, There's actually two, but I try and go off one street that doesn't have the Tim Hortons. But the second one is near the wood yard. So if I'm at the wood yard, I want to need a coffee. I got to put this on. But if I miss the one on the way there, okay. So yeah. So if I have to leave there for coffee, I have to either drive to the one that's a few minutes away, but I have to park and I have to walk in, or I have to go further east and I have to go into the drive-through, and that's about another 6, 7 minutes away, right? And that doesn't sound like much, guys, but we're used to Tim Hortons being on like almost every corner, right? Like, I'm in the suburbs, and you have like a couple, you have those city blocks where it's, it's a, a couple miles, a few kilometers, not even, like maybe 3 kilometers, a mile and change, maybe a little more between each block, and you have like a big rectangle block. So I'm kind of outside one edge, and I got to go kind of to the outside of the other edge. So I'm going on like 3 main streets to get to my wood yard, and it only takes 8 minutes. But there's like 8 Tim Hortons on the way there, right? So that's how ridiculous it is here. There's just so many. There's one in the mall. There's one beside the gas station. There's another one in the gas station. There's like 4 drive-throughs. There's like five. Sorry, there's like 5 drive-throughs on the way, right? So there's just so many, and so much access. And I bought this mug off of eBay, and I think I thought it was 4 mugs. Is it 3 or 4? Or sorry, is it 4 mugs I have, or 5? I think it's 4, but I thought I bought 3, and then I looked and there was an extra one, right? So I just keep it going with the Tim Hortons Canadian coffee. You know what I mean? So let's talk about the pros of the wood yard. So the pro is, the main one is not having a delusional landlord. And I just had a story recently where I think I mentioned it in one of my videos that I'm supposed to release, right? But I came to give him some money that I had to give him for the motor and the truck that he helped me installed. And when I gave up the key for the place, he told me, "Oh, you can't come back on the property anymore." He allowed my wood to be in the wood yard because I moved the first half of my equipment, and then I just had my container in there and I had my wood crates, right? So he allowed the new tenant to allow me to have my wood there in his space, and then the new tenant even told me, "Don't pay me anything, just have the wood in there for like 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to move. I know it's hard to move, so leave it there." But then the actual landlord, he doesn't want me to have the wood in inside the yard, right? So I went there to give him some money, and I walk across the street. The wood yard is, or sorry, the gate is locked, but he's subletting, so his tenant has got the gate open. So I went looking for him. I couldn't find him. Then I just hear him screaming at me, "Get the F out of the yard." And this guy doesn't even use the F word, right? So I'm like, "I'm here to give you some money. Like, what's the problem, man? You know what I mean? What, you think I'm going to be up to something malicious or whatever, right?" But he just plays it by the books, like he's got to protect his own ass. He's like a lawyer in that sense. When it comes to like him doing business or interacting with people, he's like a lawyer where he's always trying to protect himself. And then another thing, he's always trying to make money off of everybody. You know what I mean? Is Tim Hortons like Dunkin' Donuts? I don't really know Dunkin' Donuts. We used to have it here, but it's just, all it is. It used to be just a basic donut shop, right? And there's nothing to it. You can go and get your coffee, your muffins, and your danishes, your bagel and cream cheese, and that's pretty much it, right? But what Tim Hortons now is they have all this different food, and they're always changing their menu. They got wraps and stuff, and they've had chili for years, and they have little fancy donuts that they make every once in a while, and they have the Timbits, which is like the little donut balls, right? They have a little promotion with Justin Bieber, and they call them Tim Biebs, and you can buy like the Tim Biebs hat and stuff, right? So they kind of go all over the place with their marketing and what they do. Now they have like these like healthy like food bowls. I don't know if it's rice in there, but then they have whatever, I don't know, cranberries or little crunchy things along with them and stuff like that, right? But yeah, they're just kind of going all over the place. But yeah, they're just all over the place, and the drive-through in the morning is like insane. Like when I leave my place to go to the shop, I just I grab a coffee there. I make like a little I get multi-grain bread. I put it on. I put peanut butter on it. I toast it, and I just go in and get a coffee. I don't even stop at this Tim Hortons at the bottom of my street, right? Because it's too busy. And I've told the people inside, listen, I can't stay here in line for 10 minutes when I'm on my way out to work. I'm not saying you guys are slow at your service, right? But it's like there's 5 or 6 cars there, and there's 5 or 6 cars there, and it like takes so long because it's like people, they don't cook food at home or anything anymore. They just go there and they buy all their breakfast. You know what I mean? That's what our society is leading to. It's where people don't cook anymore. They don't have the time to cook. They don't have the ability to cook, and they just buy it in some store. They order Uber Eats and stuff like that, right? So I actually stop at one that's not very busy, another block up, and I actually park and I walk in, and there's never usually anybody in the lineup when I walk in, right? So yeah. Anyway, so going back to the landlord, and that story. The other day, I see him walking over to the yard because I'm working on the truck. Now remember, he told me to get the F off of his property, right? I should have told him the same, because he came over to my property, right? And he asked me if I want to buy a skid steer. I just sold him a skid steer, right? Why do I need a skid steer now if I just sold him one? You know what I mean? So I should have called him out on it, but I will again because I heard some other stuff about him and what he's trying to do over at the woodyard. He tried to tell the new guy who moved into the lot, which was kind of in front of my woodyard. He tried to tell the guy, don't put any more grading down on the ground, because when the hoarder moved out, they had to plow up all the dig up all the skids and everything in the ground, all the sawdust that built up like 2.5 feet high in that yard. They had to clean all of that out, right? So they put grading in, gravel and stuff, and then Anthony, the landlord, he told the new tenant, he told him, oh no, don't put any more grading in here because it's gonna, the rainwater is gonna flood into his property, right? So that guy Mike, he went and talked to the owners of the entire property about what was happening and about what Anthony said, and he talked to him and he said, listen, we don't like you here, we don't like what you do. I deal with you because my sister doesn't want to deal with you, right? He said you're hanging on by a string, and why do you think you're making all the rules around here? Who are you to tell another tenant not to put any grading down in his property, right? He's renting from me. You got nothing to do with him, so stay out of it, right? And then I was getting power in the woodyard, and I was under the impression that he was paying for that power, right? And that's absolutely false, because when I was talking to the property owner, right, the other day, he said that power pole was put in by a customer, or sorry, by a tenant, and when he moved, he left it in there, right? So why I can say that he's acting like this is his and like he's paying money for it, which is total BS, is because when I moved in, I started using the plug for my conveyor was electric, right? And then I had lighting in there, right? So he said at one point, okay, well, the electricity bill is, I haven't seen a change in the electricity bill, so you're not going to have to pay anything for any power, right? Because I was like, I'm not using much power, right? So that's total BS, because he's not getting no bill for the power there. You know what I mean? So he's all up to tricks, this guy, man. All up to tricks. Okay. Another pro about the new woodyard is the diesel. There's one of those small gas stations right around the corner from the woodyard. So that comes in convenient for, yes, it is crazy calling. He's in a delusion, right? And I forgot to mention earlier that while I was thinking that place was too small and whatnot, I still had this thing in my mind where dealing with this guy, it's like a thorn in my side. You know what I mean? It's like, what kind of silliness is going to come up next, right? That's how it always was. You know, even from not being able to back into the yard because he's always got his truck parked there, right? And then now the new guy there, who's been there for July, August, September, October, he's in there almost 5 months. I spoke to him like over 2 weeks ago. He's already ready to move, right? And he said when he tries to go into the yard, he can't get into the yard because you got to go down and then the yard's on a 90-degree angle to one way. So he parks right where the angle is in front of his workshop there. So you can get down the driveway, but then you can't get back into that space, right? So he's upset. He wants to move, and who knows? Maybe I'll move back to that area with him because he has some. There's some openings coming up, and there's a couple that are there, and they're big, but I can split with the guy, and I can use one side of it, and they're also off in the back because that whole area has like units in the front, and some of them go all the way to the back, but then some of the units have like the L shape, right? And there's a couple other ones with different shapes too. Like there's like a little gate off the front where you got to come down, and then you got to turn in, and then you get your to your gate, right? That kind of thing. But the owner of the property was telling me that it's too bad that I didn't get the other lot because that lot, that's where you had the little gate and the driveway where you had to go in the back. So I didn't. It's not like I was having to deal with anybody else in front of me who was going to be in my way, right? And it would have been perfect. It would have just been the backside of the lot, you know what I mean? And the reason why I wanted the backside is because when I have the fires there, right? I can't have the fire right on the street. The fire department is around the corner from the shop. So there's my street where the shop is, and then it's just a short street. My shop's at the end of it almost, and then there's a street going parallel, and then the Woodyard Street is the next one over. So at the end of my street of the shop, that's where the fire station is. The next street over is the Woodyard, right? Down a bit, it's pretty much the same north-south as the shop, right? It's like when I walk from the shop, it's directly south to the old yard. So the fire station is closed, and the fire department would kind of come down when they come down the main street coming in. They'd have to turn and they'd have to face towards the Woodyard, where like the smoke is coming from the fire before they do the right turn again and then go towards the fire department, right? So it was a little risky having the fires there to begin with. And when I first moved in there, I had a fire, and they came and told me to put it out, right? But it was during the day too, so I was taking a little risk during the day. Usually I do it at night, you know. Another time I had a fire at the shop before I had the wood yard, and my wood yard was in front of my shop, right? And I had my big shelf with all my wood on it, and I had a burn barrel going there. And the fire department comes right down my street, so they just look in the parking lot and they saw it, and then they came and they took out the hose, they tipped over the bucket, and they sprayed the whole bucket, and they sprayed the coals out and just made a mess everywhere. Like, those guys don't care. I know they're operating under safety, but they'll destroy anything just to put out a fire, right? So, I mean, you've seen that in the movies. What's that movie? The Bill Murray movie. I can't remember. It's the one where he robs the bank, but then he fools the people that he's the victim to get out of the bank, and then he has them still thinking that they're in the bank. And the fire department shows up with the fire trucks to put out a fire, and there was a car in the way, so they went and bashed the windows, and they put the hose right through the car. Instead of putting the hose over the car, they just went right through the windows of it, right? But reminds me of that, you know. So, anyways, going back to the gas station situation there. So if I need gas, the gas is cheap. I noticed the diesel's been coming down, guys, but the diesel is really cheap in that spot, right? So, yeah, Colleen says, yeah, it's illegal to burn garbage here, so we do it at evening when the game warden is back home. Yeah, definitely. And I missed a couple comments. No, I just missed, or Tim Stout says, yep, sounds like Dunkin' Donuts. Our lines wrap around the block. Okay. Yeah, and DK says, that's Toronto? No way. Make money on every inch of land. Every inch of land, yeah. The construction here is booming. It has been booming for years. The condo market is ridiculous. There has been, I guess, I remember the beginning of the condo days was like in the 90s, right? It was like a big thing that these condominiums were going up, and basically our downtown core was the CN Tower, and there was a few like bank towers, a couple other office towers, and that's it, right? You just saw like a little cluster of buildings, and the CN Tower. That was it, right? Then they start building all these condos and they start building more office buildings, but the condos just took over the offices. Now, like the whole lake shore is along Lake Ontario is all condos. Excuse me. So many people who had lakefront views of the lake, they're losing it because of the other condos that are getting put in the way. And then what would happen too is you go to buy a condo, and they tell you it's you get lake view of the lake, right? And the view of the lake is like this wide between the two other condos. You know what I mean? So a lot of people are getting upset about it, and then a lot of quality issues and stuff. I think did we have some windows falling out of the condos? But that was happening a lot at BC because a lot of the BC, or sorry, Vancouver, British Columbia, the condos that they were building there, they're having problems with the panels falling out and crashing down to the ground, right? So yeah, land is very expensive here. Housing is very expensive here. A three-bedroom house in Toronto is, um, I'd say, I think the average is close to a million. Um, I don't think it's around 700,000. I think it's close to a million, but it's just like even a townhouse, we've seen townhouses go for, um, yeah, for $1 million, like easy, you know what I mean? If you have a house that, the people who moved out because they're too old to live there and they haven't renovated the place since the 70s, you've got people lining up like $1.2 million to buy that home, $1.5 million, and it's like it needs a complete redo. Like it's got the red carpet, it's got the mustard wallpaper in it, right? Um, Virgil, how you doing, man? Good to see you, man. Long time. Last time I saw you, we ran into in the neighborhood. He's a buddy of mine. We grew up together in the same neighborhood, playing basketball, baseball, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Football, tag, hide and go seek, all those things, right? So he's a little older than me, so he kind of helped bring me up in the world. You know what I mean? Give me some experience. One of the older guys in the neighborhood, right? So anyways, yeah, Toronto, like I was just talking about the townhouses that him and I grew up in, and we saw one of them sell for like $1.2 million, and yeah, it's just ridiculous there, right? But a friend of mine who lives just behind the townhouses, and I live across the street. When I moved out, I moved across the street, right? So I'm still in the area. This is like the best area, and people who live in this area, even if they move out, they come back, right? It's very convenient. I'm near two of the major highways, and if there's no traffic, which yes, we're known for traffic, right? I know how to get around. I'm not gonna drive right in rush hour to do stuff, but I can get to the airport, which is it's on the border of Toronto. It's in Mississauga, but it's on the border of Toronto. I can get there in 12 minutes. I can get to the city limits in 12 minutes, even less. I can get downtown in 12 minutes. Not right in the core, but I can get downtown. It's not really a technicality. I can get downtown in 12 minutes, right? And then the core will be another, like, it's a little slow now when you get into the core. It used to be like a little easier to get into the core, but it's probably 15, 16, 17 minutes if I go right down near the bottom, before I hit the lake shore, not at the main exit, Bloor Street, but yeah, if I go down to like Richmond, which is basically taking you right to the main downtown core, it's 16 minutes to there, and then the city limits in the east, that's another 12 minutes, right? But yeah, I still got to finish up this point about the diesel, which is not much of a point, but the gas station there, the fuel's cheap, right? It's the cheapest diesel that I've seen, and there's another place that it's it's not on the route to the Woodyard. I have to go north a bit, and then I could jump on the highway there to go to the Woodyard. But I'm in the south, so I have to take Kingston Road, which is that diagonal. So if I go to get gas at that station, it's a couple blocks east, and then north of the shop, and then I can jump on the 401 and go east from there. But where I'm starting from is like Kingston Road, or close to Kingston Road. So the 401 and Kingston Road go and eventually meet, right? So I would go to that station a lot to get fuel. And what's the price now? So I've seen diesel as much as 225 a liter. So if you call that, that's probably like $8 a gallon, right? Or no, a little less. Um, Colleen's asking something. Yeah, it's probably about $7 a gallon, something like that, right? That's what it's been maximum here, but now it is down. So the other day I saw at that same place right across, right close to the new wood yard, it's $1.92 I saw for it. So $1.92, that's almost $8, and then take off some for the U.S. currency, and then take off a little bit because that would be at the price of like I'm multiplying 192 times 4 because a liter is almost 4 or sorry 1 gallon is almost 4 liters, right? It's 3.78 liters per gallon. So if you take off a small percentage off of that, what's that off of $8? That's like, well, it's just under $8 too. So call it maybe $7 a gallon, and then but then the conversion rate is going to be a little less with the conversion from U.S. to American. So if we're about $7, then we're looking at maybe about $6 a gallon, something like that, right? And Tim Stout said, yeah, $6 in Northeast Pennsylvania. Colleen, you're asking, have you been in Toronto your whole life? I've been on the same street my whole life, guys. I'm 45 years old, the same street. Technically, no. Or, well, it's technically yes, I am, right? But I grew up in the townhouse that is off of one side street, and then now I live in the place where I live, it's on that side street, right? So my family house is literally across the street, right? And my street, it's a diagonal street that connects one main street and connects to another main street, right? So it's like if you're coming, and the way it is if you're coming south or you're coming from the east of where I am, or sorry, if you're coming from the north and you're coming from the east and it's in the morning and it's like rush hour, right? People are generally flowing towards the busier areas, towards the downtown and whatnot, right? That flow of traffic, instead of going south on my main street and then turning right on the other main street, you can actually turn at the lights before and then you can take a shortcut down my street. So my street, it's a one-lane street each way. There's a townhouse. There's no more plaza at the top. There used to be like a strip mall there, but now it's a new townhouse that they built, and it should be opening like any day now, right? Because construction's been done for a while. And then right across from where I live, they're building another townhouse there, right? So it's going to be a little bit more busier soon, but it's not really busy here. Sometimes the traffic might back up a bit. If you got a problem on Lawrence, and when you hit Lawrence, so if you go down my street, then you hit Lawrence, the next lights over, just after the next lights is the main highway for like north-south, right? And the east side of town anyway, right? So sometimes the traffic can back up there because everybody's trying to flow there. Even people will pass the highway and they're trying to go a little bit more west, or they're trying to take on Don Mills Road, which is a quick route to go south, right? A lot of traffic flows through here, and a lot of traffic comes down my street, but it's not really backed up unless it's like school hour and rush hour in the morning, a little bit. But even if I was leaving then, I would just ditch out and pull out of the there's another business there where you can pull out just before, or you can turn in there and you can turn out on Lawrence, and I can get out of that whole area, right? I don't like to go up the top of my street and then go right and then go towards the southeast to go to my shop. I like to go down and then I start going east, right? So I have two options when I leave my building. I can go both ways and then I can just correct and then start on my main path towards the wood yard, right? So Buck in Firewood is here. How you doing, man? How far are you from here? You're about 7 hours north, something like that. 6 hours. He's in Ontario, guys. And he's got his channel. Have you put out any videos lately? I haven't seen anything by you lately. I haven't checked in maybe about a month or so, but I know you did a few videos when you started up, and I know you had an injury there. So how's the injury doing? I hope everything's okay over there. And it's now selling season now, but I think you do a lot of selling like during the summer too, right? So 4.5 hours. Okay. Yeah. So anyways, what was I saying about here? And then, yeah, at the bottom of my street, you have that Tim Hortons. So a lot of people are trying to file in there, and then it's kind of a zoo there in the morning because people, they block one way. They want to go in the drive-through, and they block the whole driveway from people coming into the plaza. And there's a couple other businesses in the plaza. There's a Subway, which wouldn't be open at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, right? But you got people, they just block the whole driveway by sitting in the middle and waiting to do the 180 into the drive-through, right? So you hear all these horns honking. People don't have the courtesy to pull off to one side to let the other cars go through. You got the people coming into the plaza off the main street, and then you got the people coming out of the drive-through that they might want to exit out on the small street side of the whatever, right? But yeah, I lived in this neighborhood my whole life. In the back is nice suburbs, lots of greenery, beautiful homes, split level floors. Some of them back onto the ravines, and beside the highway here, it's in a river valley, right? So when you go further through these neighborhoods, eventually you get to the river valley, right? And there's all types of trails, and you can walk through there. When I did my recent nature walk tree ID videos, right? That's right beside the highway. And sorry, not the nature walk tree ID videos, the single species tree ID videos, right? Those ones I did. That's 2 minutes from my house, literally right there, right? I pull out, I go down at the bottom of the street at the lights, the Tim Hortons. I go to the next traffic lights, which is maybe a quarter mile, right? And then I just go up over the hill, and then I turn into the park. I park, and then I walk through the woods there, right? So yeah, it's I have a nice little nature scape, and I have some salmon fishing in the back there too. Just did a shot. I should get some shot going on. How about I should have had some whiskey in this, right? I actually make my own Baileys, guys. It's pretty easy. You put 7 ingredients in the blender, and you've got yourself Baileys, right? So I've done that a number of times before. I'm not too big on it, but it's nice to have. It's like a treat when I want to spoil myself sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's not for the morning coffee. I think that's a little too strong for the morning coffee. I guess I'm a bit of a purist with breakfast, just have a coffee. There's nothing really added to it. It's no frills. It's not, I like 2 sugars in there, so it's sweet, yes, but I don't go overboard with it, right? Um, why not live on your woodlot instead of traveling? Well, I'll tell you, when you say that, this is the kind of idea I had over the years. So I've had different places where I've done my business, right? And this started off, when would that be? 2002 was, even before that, I started off with, doing my own thing and selling stuff online, right? So I'm into the Toyota 4Runners, and I used to part out Toyota trucks, right? So, um, where's the first place I had? It would have been up there. And then the second place I had, yeah, okay, I know how it goes. So my first place was with a friend. We used to work in the courier company. And, or you just did a short, not a shot. Okay, sorry, man, I'm just reading quickly here. Lots coming. Okay, yeah, keep filming, man. I want to see what's going on up there. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. And I thought I saw Lamar Williams. Yeah. Oh, that's who asked the question. Yeah. Okay. So I've been dabbling in self-employment for over 20 years now, right? So I used to part out Toyota 4Runners, and a friend of mine that I used to work with in a courier company, he had a big garage. It's a house like in West Toronto, like west of downtown, and it's all like the really old houses, right? Like Victorian homes and stuff like that. And he had like a 4-car garage in the back, right? It was his mom's house, but she didn't live there, right? And they had tenants in there, and then he actually went and renovated the whole house, and he put like 2 separate basement tenants in. He closed off the door from his main floor, and he made a door to go down to the basement. So then he ended up having 3 tenants in the house, right? And he did all the renovations himself. That guy was nuts. He could do anything. He moved out to New Brunswick, right? Because he had 2 kids to take care of. He moved out there, and he said, forget it. But while he was here, um, he had like a wood shop, woodworking shop on the 1 2-car garage side, and he had all the tables, everything laid out all around, and he could do woodworking like no problem, right? Anything you wanted, he could make. And then the other side, there's a garage, so I used to bring my vehicles in there, and my Toyota 4Runners that I used to part them out. So then I had to move out of there, and I moved to Stouffville, which is just north of the city, and it's like farmland, right? It's a lot more built now, but yeah, it's so from where I am, you go to the Don Valley Parkway, You go north, you cross the 401. On that side of the highway, it's called, or on that side of the 401, it's called the 404. From where I live to get up there to the exit, Stouffville Road, was 13 minutes. And then I'd have to go east into like basically his house was like right in downtown Stouffville. When I say downtown, I mean like this is a small town, guys. It was like just it just had a main strip, and that's it, right? Like I said, it's a lot more built now, but his house was like the third house from like the main intersection. There's pretty much nothing on the main intersection. There's like a small ice cream shop, couple other things there, like not much at all, right? And then they had some newer businesses there. Um, box, not a box store. What else did they have there? I can't remember. But a couple like drive-through restaurants and stuff. Not much there, you know. So this guy was renting out the house there, and he had a barn, and he had a field. And I used to bring my trucks inside the barn, and I used to work on the trucks inside the barn, right? So I thought this is great. You have a place in the country because I like the country. I'm a fisherman, so I'm like it'd be nice to have a place like this where I could like do what I'm doing here, right? So when I moved into my shop, it's because I did my scrap metal recycling in 2007, and then it was later on. I guess it might have been as early as 2010. I started selling firewood, and then for two, 2011, I know I was doing it because I know what truck I had at the time, right? I have pictures showing me with that truck and all the wood that I started getting in. And but July 2013, that's when I really started getting into the wood. And then I just outgrew my shop, right? It was to the point where I had so much wood that I couldn't. I had my smaller boat inside the shop, right? So I'd have so much wood. If I wanted to go fishing, I'd have to like split all the wood just to be able to pull the boat out, right? And I mean like make a lot of room so I could pull the boat out and everything, right? Even if I wanted to work on it outside or something like that, I could work on it inside. But is just to get it out and even to turn it and get it around, just to pull it out of the shop with the truck attached to it, right? I had to make a lot of room. So that's why I rented the wood yard across the street from the wood yard. But when I started doing the wood business and I knew about what I was doing before, I was like, well, it would be nice if I lived in the country, which is something I want to do, right? I'd actually like to have a cottage up north on a lake, but that's a whole different realm, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be living up there and doing my business and stuff. That's like, okay, you just got money coming in, you don't have to travel, and you can live at the lake, right? And you lose convenience because you're not close to lots of resources and lots of stores and lots of services and stuff like that. But as a fisherman, that's why I like to, be up north, right? At the same time, I'm a city person, so I'm used to the noise and it's not noisy here. I'm in the suburbs, right? But I'm used to the busier style of life than the country life. And I think I'd be bored if I lived up there a lot of the time, right? I'd have to have like company, whatever company that is. But I thought, what if I could move up to Stouffville? If I had known I was getting into the wood business, do this years ago, and I could live there. I have my shop and I have my garage, my wood yard, all in the same place, right? That would be awesome. If I was paying, say, I could get something like that back in the day for maybe 2,000 or $2,500, which that would be in US. That'd be like 1,600 or $2,000 to have a space where I could do everything on my property. You know what I mean? So I could store my boat. I could do my wood. I could do my scrap metal recycling, right? I could do it, and then I could live there and everything. I don't need no big house or anything. I just need the kitchen because I like to cook. I need the bedroom, I need the bathroom, and I need my computer studio, right? So maybe I could even have a house and then rent out most of it to somebody, you know what I mean? Like take one floor, right? And just rent out the rest. And then because it's so close, my main supplier, I could have my main supplier still being close access because he does a lot of cutting in like the top half of the city, right? Just west of the that one highway, the DVP 404, he does a lot in that area, so I wouldn't be too far from my free wood supply. So going back to the chat, Mitch Jones, wood guys. I'm in a small town surrounded by small towns. Everyone makes, but still, everyone makes firewood, but still a huge market for sales. Well, yeah, it's if you're out of town, you always have a market for sales. And I mean, it depends on how much people you have that are populated in the area. A lot of those people are going to be burning wood, right? But yeah, as long as you don't have too many people selling wood, right? Then it's a problem, you know. But people need a lot of wood in general. So if you have, you know, you have a lot of wood to sell, you can still sell it as much as there's as other people there selling the wood, right? But you know, I heard this figure and it was disturbing, right? Let me go back to that. But I see Andrew says, "Yeah, man, congratulations, thank you very much." Scarborough, brother, lots of trees. Yeah, so yeah, you're familiar. Um, Scarborough is that's the part of the town I'm in. I live on the border of Scarborough. Scarborough is the eastern one third of Toronto. The entire eastern one third. Victoria Park, from Steeles Avenue in the north, right down to the lake. At the lake that has a water filtration plant. And in the summer, I did my boating video, and I pass by that place because I launch in Scarborough, and then if I'm going downtown or whatever, or just for a rip, not even downtown, but I have to pass by the water filtration plant, and that's the area where they filmed the jail scene in I always Half Baked with Dave Chappelle, right? When you see Dave Chappelle and he's in the jail, that's on the west side of the building of that I don't know what the filtration plant is, but it's very distinct. It's right on the shore of Lake Ontario. It's right at the bottom of Victoria Park, right? So I'm on the west side of Victoria Park. I'm actually in North York, you know. So there's a lot of stipulation with what Scarborough is, because there's a lot of bad publicity because the mayor of North York, and North York is like the top half of the middle of Toronto. It goes a lot into the west end, not quite to the end of Toronto, but it's a giant section where actually that's where a lot of the crime was. But the popular mayor at the time, he always badmouth Scarborough with all the crime, but the worst neighborhoods are in North York, right? So there's a big thing going around here, you know. But Scarborough, yeah, there's a lot of greenery. We have some river valleys. The border in the east to Pickering is a big river valley called the Rouge River. And mind you, none of these rivers in Toronto are big either, right? The Humber River in Toronto, in the West End, is a bigger river, but it's not that big at all, right? The bottom section, maybe a few kilometers, a couple miles from the lake, is wide, and it maybe has some deep sections, but beyond that, how wide is it? That river is like maybe it's maybe 100 feet wide, 120 feet, 140 feet in the sections where like more populated, and then even less when you're going further up than that. So that's the biggest we have, and then we have a number of them that are all across the city. So there's the Don River Valley, which is right behind me, beside the highway, the Don Valley Parkway, and then there's Highland Creek to the east, and that's right by the Woodyard. I got to drive right through the valley in Highland Creek into Highland Creek Village. That's where actually the Woodyard is, right? Old Kingston Road. And then the Rouge River is just to the east, right? But yeah, there's lots of forest here. I saw a documentary on Toronto's natural setting, and the northeast quadrant of the city. And I just filmed this the other day in a video with like, how I had to deliver some wood and pass by Toronto Zoo. That whole area is just all forest. It's rolling hills, and you could have a big camera up there with a nice field of view, and you look all around you, it's just trees everywhere. You would never think that you're in a major city, right? So it's very interesting here, you know. Um, okay, James Bainton said I did a splitting job up near Stouffville, big lot, and would be awesome place to set up, but money now. Yeah, see, all the value of everything has gone up here, guys. It's ridiculous. Everything has like almost doubled in the last how many years? Not many years. With COVID, everything went up. A lot of people are moving up into the woods, up into the cottage country, and we have tons of cottage country here, guys. We have the most freshwater lakes, rivers, and streams in the world. There's 250,000, and the cottage life is just take your pick. Start driving. Just pick a map on a lake on the map. You can go there. They have like the more popular lakes that they're only an hour and change, hour and a half from the city. They're all connected by canals. It's just a busy area like across the board. There's big lakes, there's small lakes. Lake Simcoe is only half an hour north of here, It's bigger than the city of Toronto. That's also an option. And then you have just the countless other lakes, like 3, 4, 5 hours drive, and then northern Ontario, like past like on the north side of Lake Superior and the northwest side of Lake Huron. We usually refer to, because we're local here in Toronto, we say Georgian Bay, but that's the eastern half of Lake Huron, right? So that's kind of what we have more access to. You know what I mean? Lake Huron is more like the outer edge. It's like that's even separated by a big spit, Tobermory and everything. So that Lake Huron's kind of a different section for us. We're more used to that eastern shore of Lake Huron, which is Georgian Bay. But then you have where it's really wild up there. There's not much out there. It's just the Trans Canada Highway that goes right through. There's nothing up there but lakes, and it's all fly-in charters and everything. You know what I mean? But I forgot what I was saying. Oh, look, Buck and Firewood says Jane and Finch. Yeah, that was the hot neighborhood back in the day, right? Really hot, man. Lots of gunshots and all that stuff. You know what I mean? How you doing, PA Trapping and Outdoors? Nice to see you, man. Thanks for stopping in and celebrating with me here. Canadian Fishing Museum, or musician, sorry. How you doing? I remember subscribing to you not too long ago. I guess I popped up on your screen there, right? Bry 416. I know Highland Creek area. This is by the Woodland, the new wood yard again, guys. Grew up near Port Union Road. So Port Union Road's just around the edge of that border. The geography's funny there. We're used to in Toronto, everything, all the city blocks are square, except for those areas where you get the winding river valleys, right? So yeah, back on Joe's Firewood videos. I guess you didn't see when we were saying that I'm back on when I had the freezing problem, but I said I'm going to shut down the laptop and or cancel the one on the laptop, and I'm going to come back on my phone here, right? So I was looking to see if you had come back, and I didn't know. I figured you didn't have the. I figured you didn't get the message, right? But yeah, thanks for the super chat, Joe. That's right. Black locust matters, guys. I coined the term. And when you have honey locust and you have black locust, then what do you got to say? You guys know it. All locusts matter, right? So that's what I believe in terms of wood, and that's what I believe in terms of race, right? Is everybody is all the same. It doesn't matter. And what's happening today, I'm not getting into the politics here, but the whole thing about today's movement about anti-racism, anti-sexism, this and that, is just making one group is the good people and the other group is the bad people. And nobody's talking about the other group and any wrongs that they have, and even certain terms that are used to apply to certain people, those terms are not applicable to the other group because apparently they're exempt. You know what I mean? How you doing, Shive? Nice to see you here, man. I'm not taking up your slot here. I was looking to see if you were gonna run your stream tonight, and I saw that you didn't run it, so I had planned to do it at 7 o'clock, but I had some technical difficulties. But I'm here now just to celebrate the 2,500 subs. So thanks for stopping in. It's good to have you here, one of the other Woodhounds. So let's get a woo from Shive. Woo! Shive's channel is great, guys. This is usually when, for all those who don't know, this is when his live stream is on. And we go check it out. We go talk about wood and firewood and stuff and all of whatever's going on in his world. And how was the hunting trip, man? I saw one of your shorts videos there, but how was the progress? Let's get an update on what happened with the trip and everything. That looked like a nice place. I'm a total cabin renter or cottage renter kind of thing. So while you guys are sitting in that place, I'm like thinking to myself, ooh, I'd love to be there. Or I'd love to be in a setting like that. But I found I've been getting thanks for the congrats, man. Well, yeah, WEF. I know all about those people. WEF, guys. Those are the culprits, man. That's the answer to what's wrong with our world today. Anyways, yeah, so the cottage market here, the cottages are insane too, and because of the whole 2020 thing, I'm not going to say the C word, right? But the whole 2020 factor, people were starting to move. I'm going to get a beer after this. I finish out this coffee. This is starting to get fun, guys. Anyways, people just started exiting to the cottage country. You know, they have a cottage or they book a cottage to rent and they just go up, you know, and they just stay up there. A lot of people, they could work from home So they just went up to the cottage, right? And for years, people didn't really have internet access, but then now it's like a main thing where it got forced to be installed up there because people need internet now, right? They have their smartphones, they have their smart TVs, all this stuff. Of course, they got to have internet, so people are going up there and working, right? Huntsville, which is the major region. When you say Muskoka, people think of Bracebridge and like Gravenhurst. Those are like the two main towns, but actually, Huntsville is a giant region within Muskoka. But then there's the town of Huntsville. And what I heard in that whole region is that the population has doubled up there, right? And then the cottages, Muskoka cottages are okay now. So the average price of cottages in Toronto are like $1 million each, and then the average price of a cottage in Muskoka is more than the price of a home in Toronto's. So just imagine the houses in Muskoka, the cottages are way nicer than what you would get here. You get waterfront and you get this beautiful big place with some property. You know what I mean? Maybe half an acre, maybe more than that, maybe 2 acres. But just so much money. In terms of renting, a 3-bedroom cottage, I started renting out a crappy one at that, right beside the marina. It was in what I called the ghetto of Muskoka, which is really convenient. It's an hour and a half from Toronto. It's like the start of Muskoka, and very rocky lake, small lake, not too ritzy like the other Muskoka lakes. But yeah, this little cottage wasn't rustic. It was more modern than that, and it was $800 or 650 bucks US for a week. I started renting a friend's place at $1,000 Canadian. That's about 850 US, and then he kept bumping it up till he got to 1,400. So that's like 1,200, maybe 1,150 US, and then now the going rate. And then sorry, I rented for 1,800, and I'm gonna get back to the chats here, guys. One sec. So I got to $1,800 dollars for renting another cottage at a different lake because my friend sold his cottage. So $1,800, that's $1,500 US, and then with the whole lockdown, whatever stuff, that just brought it up to like it's probably $3,000 for just an average 3-bedroom cottage lakefront, right? It's too much money. I hardly have people coming with me to go up to the lake to help chip in on the cost. I don't mind spending the cost. My problem is I have the truck, I have the boat, I like to cook. I'm not eating hot dogs and hamburgers for a week. I got like gourmet stuff going on there. You know what I mean? All the expenses I don't drink that much beer. I bring like a case of beer. I'll go get a few more if I have to. I got the gin with me. I got a case of water. It's all this work. It's all this money. Plus I'm off work for a week. I work for myself, guys. If I take a week off work, that's like, it could be up to like 2,000, maybe even $3,000 I'm losing, right? It's gonna be minimum like $1,000 I'm losing just by going up there. So I knew I was gonna get squeezed out of that market. Hopefully things get better, or hopefully have people chipping in. We can plan something, but you also have to plan for. I haven't since for 2020 and on. I haven't rented a cottage, right? I rent my little rustic cabin at the lake. I've been doing that for over 20 years. But if you want to rent a cottage prior to 2020, then it's going to cost you, or sorry, you got a call in like February, January, right? You can't call in like May or June and say I want a cottage for the end of June or July. They're all booked. Everything here, as much as I told you, there's so many cottages here, everything's booked. Especially with COVID, I'm pretty sure that just forget it, man. Unless you got lucky, somebody canceled out. But now it's all this contract stuff. It's not just people who own the cottage and they're like, okay, we'll just rent. You just give us the money and it's okay. It's like Airbnb style, or through Airbnb, cottage rental agencies and whatnot. So let me go back through the chat here. I don't want to miss anybody here, man. I can take this opportunity now that I have the laptop going. I saw Larry's in here. So is that Larry Cluck or is that Larry Hoddle? I just been talking, so I haven't been paying too much attention to the chat. Yeah, it is Larry Hoddle. How you doing, Larry? Craig Wilson is here. Thanks for stopping in. And who else? Anybody else? Yeah, some regular Woodhounds are in here today. I'm not surprised. Craig Wilson, a cottage there is the same amount as 100 acres in southern Illinois. I guess I need to sell and get a cottage and visit you, Anthony. Yeah, it's guys, it's absolutely beautiful here. My parents are from the islands, the Caribbean islands, Trinidad and Tobago, right? I've never been too keen on the whole like beach scene, right? I've been there, I've done it kind of thing, right? And those places are too hot. It's too hot here in the summer. I don't like the heat, so I don't like the Caribbean. In terms of visuals, I haven't been like Trinidad is not really that crystal clear water, kind of like Cuba, kind of beach, Florida, kind of situation like that. The water's darker there. If you go to Tobago, that's more like the resort with the coral reef and the crystal clear water and everything. That's how Tobago is, right? So I haven't had those other experiences, on a bigger scale. But in terms of even with fishing, I like up here, guys. I like Ontario. There's lots of lakes here. It's got lots of the shield rock everywhere. So, it's just rocks or rocky islands here with some growth, maybe some trees growing on them, the small ones all over the place. You've got the little cottage that's tucked away within the trees, within the unlevel ground. Like I love that stuff. You know what I mean? It's amazing here. You got so many pine trees, so you smell the smell of the pine needles all the time. It's amazing, guys. I'm obsessed with this region here. And a lot of people think it's dull and drab. Excuse me. Like I see that kind of myself, right? But even beyond that, in the fall when the colors come, it's just a different story. You know what I mean? It's a lot different because here you're just seeing green and all in the forest and that's it, right? And yeah, once the fall comes around, the sugar maples start to turn colors. Like I'm in love with it, guys. That's why I make the nature walk tree ID videos in the fall, right? Go when all the nice colors are in, and I try to get to the right places at the right time. So like Muskoka's up here, I'm here in Toronto, Niagara Falls is down here. I'm trying to do like my first drives in like late September up in Muskoka. And then if I were to go into Peterborough area or just north, say like an hour north. When I go to Muskoka, it's like 2 hours north, right? Um, so if I'm going like an hour north, then I'll go like the week after, and I'll just try and follow the colors as they're coming down south throughout the regions. As it because the further you get, the earlier it is colder, so the leaves change color quicker, right? Okay, guys, it's beer time, man. I'm coming right back. Give me 1 second, and we'll get back to the chats here. I saw Joe send a super chat. Thanks, Joe. All right. So, how could I not be doing this live stream without having a pint, as they say here, as some say here, because we got a lot of Scottish and Irish background here too, and I'm actually part Irish. My last name's Irish. In Trinidad, it's very multicultural, just like Toronto. Oh, what I'm gonna do first, this might be a sin to you guys, but in Trinidad and Tobago, they make shandy. So what they do is they take beer and they mix it with lemonade, or they mix it with ginger beer, or another drink called sorrel, right? Which is kind of like it's sweet like a juice, but it's tart too. It's got ginger in it, right? It's really healthy for you. But I'm gonna mix. I'm okay with lemonade, but I really like my limeade. So this is a good drink. I'll finish this off first, but I'm gonna pour this anyway, and we'll do a cheers for 2,500 subs. I should have swirled it around, get some of that pulp in there. Well, yeah, let's just follow up with the chat first, and then we'll do a little cheers. So, okay. Colleen, what's my weather going to be like in 3 weeks? Haha, seems like we always get Saskatchewan weather 3 weeks after you. I thought it was sooner than that, not 3 weeks. Thought it was more like a couple days. Joe says, smash the like button. Let me hit this arrow here to go down through the chat. let's see. Um, Colleen says a quarter here, 160 acres is 250,000. Yeah, like if you want to go far in north Ontario, it's a lot cheaper there because there's nothing there, guys. Right? It's barren. You know what I mean? Like cottage country is like 3 hours kind of thing, and then north of there, there's like Timmins, Kapuskasing, and all these different other places, Smooth Rock Falls and Cochrane, Ontario, and whatnot. It's like that's the cottage country for the people who live in cottage country, right? So it does get cheaper up there, but like I said, it's still gone up. You know what I mean? Um, Take a look at Rice Lake next time. Bit of a hidden gem. Are you joking, DK? Because Rice Lake is actually a flooded out lake, and it's a man-made lake, and it's really eerie because it has a long shape, but the shore kind of goes in and out, right? So, and it's not really like bays that tuck in a lot. It's just these shorelines that just kind of come in and out, in and out, in and out. So I remember when I was there one of the times, I've only been on that lake twice, but why I don't like it is it's tons of weeds, guys. It's so shallow, it's just weeds everywhere. It used to be like a rice paddy, and then they flooded it and they made a lake, right? So it's just weeds everywhere, man. It's how many? I think isn't it 40 kilometers long or something like that, or is it 40 or 20? I can't remember. It's a sizable lake, but it is narrow. But I remember when looking down the lake, because I launched at the west end of the lake, and when you look down, those separate shorelines, because each one is further, you get your perspective with the color, because everything that's close to you is like a certain like green color, and every other overlapping point that you see gets lighter and lighter because your vision, you start losing the color, the depth of the color, the further you go, right? So all you saw was these different shades of green along the shore where the shoreline tucked in and out, right? But then in the middle of the lake, it's really eerie. There's a lot of native history there, right? I mean, that's everywhere in Ontario, right? But there's three islands, and they're just like turtle shells. They're just these big mounds. It's not like they just go like this, right? They're like these big mounds that come up out of the water, right? So it's really eerie for whatever reason. Anyways, cheers, guys. Thanks, Joe, for the super chat. JPF, Joe's Firewood videos. Thank you guys for helping me come to 2,500 subs, man. It's a small world, the firewood community. I thought the firewood community on YouTube would be a lot bigger, but what I find is there's two types of viewers. There's people who are looking for info for firewood, and they come and they stop in, they check out this and that. They might got into homesteading, they might get into cooking. Firewood's a new thing now too with a lot of people, right? They're getting into self-sufficiency and whatnot, right? But then in terms of like actually watching the videos, all like on a regular basis, that's like the woodhound community, you know what I mean? So I feel like the guys in this community, it's people who we all know each other by name, you know what I mean? We all know the channels and stuff, right? It's a very tight knit community of a lot of great people. I gotta say, you guys are awesome, man, because when I came out on YouTube, um, I've seen plenty of the people making comments. I gotta, if I'm gonna have do a cheers, I gotta drink, right? But it's not that I'm afraid what people say and whatnot, right? Outside with Shy, with the super chat, with the bomb. Thanks a lot, man. Cheers. Woo! Or sorry, it's woo! Like that, right? Yeah, so I don't care what people think of me. Just I don't want the problems associated with it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to come from a positive sense to talk about things, to relate with people. I should say that I started with the politics earlier on, and I got censored, right? So after my third video, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna go through this anymore. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to scroll down through the chat here. Okay, that's better. It's just lagging. That's all. Um, yeah, I just don't like. I don't want to have that tension between people where they start feeling like they got to say all these things and I got to talk back to them. I'll get sarcastic. I'll try and be polite. I'll try and be virtuous, but I also can be very sarcastic and a little rude in my sarcasm, right? So it's not something I wanted to be involved with. And I come here and got a great community of people and everybody spreads love. Nobody has anything bad to say, you know what I mean? So I'm really loving it here, and doing this channel. It's so much hard work. It's ridiculous, man. It's to do these videos, guys. I put way too much time into videos. Okay, I put way too much, and it's because I like what I do, right? I've always wanted to make videos for whatever reason, I don't know, but I just enjoy trying to capture people's emotions, and I have a sense of artistry that I can't really define, but I have a talent. So it's like I like putting things together, and then I take my knowledge of, my history of seeing stuff on TV and taking those tactics and then incorporating them into my videos, right? And of course, a lot of that experience is watching YouTube videos, and I'm trying to like form fit the whole YouTube vibe that I put into the videos, right? So beyond what I've seen on TV, a lot of that influence when I make my videos is stuff that's characteristic of YouTube videos. So we got a lot of people in here, guys. Smash that like button, man. I've never had more than like maybe 12, 13 people in the live stream. We got 23 people in here now. And this is exciting, guys. This is awesome. I've kind of warmed up a little more to everything, and I'm getting into it now. It was a little awkward trying to go with the laptop before. We actually started before, and I was having lag problems, so I went to my phone now, right? But you know what? I should plug it in. Let me go get my phone charger just in case the battery doesn't die. One sec. Okay, I was just thinking I don't have any long cables here. Chuck and Deb from Iron and Oak Sawmill, I just saw your super chat. Thank you very much. You guys have been a good supporter of my channel. I know I haven't stopped in to check out your videos in a while, but I have to. I just been so busy, man. I love to check out everybody else's videos, man. I like seeing what people do. I like to keep up to date too. I like to know what people are doing. You know what I mean? I like to see what they're up to, and then when we go in the live stream, like when we go on Dan's channel at Back 40 and we go on the live stream on Friday, I like to be up to date to know what people are doing, so we could talk to them about everything. You know what I mean? Okay, we're charging. I was at 22%, so I still had some ways to go, but it's all good. So here I got my limeade shandy with my Heineken beer mixed in. And it has the sweetness, but it has the tingle or the crispiness of the beer to it, right? The carbonation. Okay, let's go back to the chat here. Yeah, so many familiar faces, man. Oh, outdoors with Larry and Robin. Larry Hoddle, thank you for the super chat. I thought I saw one come in. And yeah, thank you very much. Actually, Larry Hoddle has been a big supporter of this channel from a long time, guys. And I remember him coming in and watching my videos and stuff. And I was watching his videos, and he has does he have a bass boat? I think he has a bass boat, or is it a John boat? I can't remember. But I remember just talking to him about, being out on the water and everything, and how I like the water too, right? But Larry Hoddle lives near a friend of mine. A friend of mine is from down in Virginia. But when he was young, his family moved up here, and he grew up here. He went to school and everything here. And then I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, he moved back to the States, right? And back to Virginia. So he's in Staunton, Virginia. So he's only 50 miles from Larry Hoddle, right? So I said, like, if I come down to the States and I visit him, I'm gonna come see Larry Hoddle, and I like to come see a lot of you guys, especially like JPF. And I want to go see Josh and Autumn of Adventure Roads. And I should message them too, tell them that I'm live right now. My phone's right here. I can't even message them right now. I mean, maybe I could send a comment or whatever, but whatever. I'm busy here, so I can't really get into too much. I got to keep focused here, right? But guys, I used to go to the East Coast every year. We used to drive down with family. I got tons of family in the East Coast, and mainly New York City. My grandmother, she lived there, and she passed in 2002. But she moved to Florida at that point. Wasn't there for too long before she passed. That was 2002. That's the last time I've been to the U.S. And that was in Margate, and that's right outside of Fort Lauderdale, right? But every year, like in the '80s, pretty much every summer, we used to go to New York City. We used to go to Long Island, Queens, and Brooklyn. And then we had family in Baltimore. We used to stop even in Rochester. Like after we passed through the border at Niagara Falls, my mom's cousin was in or is in Rochester, right? And it's only 3 hours from here, so we used to see them a lot. They used to drive up here, right? So yeah, then we even had family down in Georgia too that we went and saw, right? But every year we used to go to the U.S. So we've driven by a lot of people. We've done some cross-border shopping. I'm not sure if I think we went to Pennsylvania one time for shopping, right? Um, on the Lake Ontario shore, right? I'm pretty sure we went down that way because it's like, yeah, everybody would go cross-border shopping to Buffalo. That was like the thing here, right? Because it's so cheap. But then Buffalo started raising the prices. But then like the other little gem was like if you just kind of, you cut south after you cross the border, and then you went on the underside of Lake Erie, right? But we also went to BC and we drove through the U.S. because if you go through Canada, you got to go around Lake Huron and Lake Superior. You got to go all the way around before you could start cutting west. So you have to go north for like how many hours is that? You're going north and then it curves up a bit. So by the time you get to the most northerly height before you start going west, that's like 7 hours, guys. So you got to go like 7 hours north and northwest just to go that far. You know what I mean? So we driven through when you go through the U.S. at that point, you have to go through Detroit. Windsor's on the other side of Detroit, so it's about 3.5, 4 hours from Toronto, southwest or west southwest towards what's it called, to Detroit. Then you cut through by Gary, Indiana, and then Chicago, and then we took two different routes though. We didn't quite go up like right through Wisconsin, maybe somewhat a little bit, but there's two routes you could go, and then you could take either North Dakota or South Dakota, right? You can pick a route and you can go through. So we actually went to Mount Rushmore in one way, and then back through the other way, I'm mixing up which states what, right? But we went through both ways. We actually stopped at Mount Rushmore, and then we got all the way to the West Coast, and then up through Washington State into Vancouver, right? And where we stayed in Vancouver, that was my mom's brother, and that's right near the U.S. border, right? It's like the southerly point. It's like kind of the South Vancouver area, right? So not too far from the border at all. I see that Heidi's here and there is here. How you doing, Heidi? I just put your shout out for your channel in your video this morning. I didn't have one of my Firewood videos lined up to be out today, right? And it's my video about my day job with the scrap metal, which didn't get much views, right? Because any video that I put that's slightly related to firewood or not related to firewood doesn't really get viewed, right? But here's your chance now to have some other people tune in and check out your channel, right? So everybody, if you can, after this, check out Heidi's here and there. She's got a lot of nostalgic content, which reminds me of the lifestyle I like here. The old style living where you have to harvest your own stuff, and you have to take care of yourself. You're independent. You're on a homestead, and you have to procure your firewood. You have to procure your meat and all these different things. You have to do all these preparations to make sure that everything's in order in your life. That's what kind of stuff she does. She just did a one about Thanksgiving and showed all the food that was available, right? And so yeah, a lot of content that I like myself there reminds me of the type of lifestyle that I appreciate. I live in a city, but my mind state is not a city kid, guys. Like I like the outdoor stuff. I appreciate that because I think most people in history live like that. It's only lately we have drywall and we have electricity and we have all these different machines and we have all these things that do everything for us, all these comforts, you know what I mean? The gas, the forced air and everything, right? So yeah, so I'm missing the chats here. I can they're popping up on my phone, but my on my laptop they won't scroll down. And Chuck from Iron Oak Sawmill said he saw my Niagara Falls video. And guys, I wanted to get into that because I'm just like fascinated with that place. Now, I grew up here. You know, the people who are from the region, somewhat close to Niagara Falls, it's like, okay, that's Niagara Falls. So what? We've been there. We've done that. What does it matter? You walk up and down the strip, you see the falls, and maybe you have the kids there, and you go to the haunted house, and you go to the wax museum. Like it's really touristy here. It's not like the United States side, right? They have some tourist stuff there, but Canada really focused on the tourism side of Niagara Falls here, right? So people are like, oh, what are you going there for, man? It's like I'm not going there for the wax museum, you know what I mean? And so I started going there. I'd been there as a kid a number of times, and like I said, when we drove across the border too, we might stop there in Niagara Falls as well, right? Beyond the school trips and whatever trips you went with as a kid. But I started going there a few years ago, and I was like, yeah, this is a great experience, like going to this place. And I'm a fisherman, so of course, the watershed there, there's really good fishing in the Niagara River for salmon and steelhead, and excuse me, and then even out where the Niagara River flows into Lake Ontario, going out a bit, there's what they call the Niagara River Bar, and what the water current does is it makes this big sand dune at the bottom of the lake. It's like 70 feet down, and all the fish come. It's like a big shoal that's in the middle of, like Lake Ontario is huge, and it's just this one spot where it just has this nice shoal where the fish all gather around, right? Let me go back to the chats here because, like I said, it's not scrolling down on the computer. James Bainton said weeds and zebra mussels. The zebra mussels were imported by ships into the Great Lakes, and they started eating all the green matter in the water column. So now the Great Lakes water is crystal clear. And I remember growing up and getting on the ferry to go across the Toronto Islands, which is like an amusement park area in the Toronto Harbor. And I remember that water being dark green in the 80s. So as a fisherman and boating down there, driving around, I could see the difference in the clarity of water. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting to see the difference. And apparently the zebra mussels are dying off. That's what happens with invasive species. So okay, let's go through the chat here. So the Great Lakes, the zebra mussels have spread through the canal system. It's just a small boat canal, not for like shipping and cargo, just for passenger boats, private boats. The entire Peterborough Lakes, which is kind of north and east of the city, that's connected to Lake Ontario's east end. Then on the west end, it feeds from the Peterborough side into Lake Simcoe. And then on the north side, there's the canal system that goes through Muskoka, and that goes into Georgian Bay, which is a part of Lake Huron, right? So basically, all the cottage lakes that are within an hour and a half, not all of them, but a lot of them are connected through that canal system with I think there's 44 locks in the whole system. So right through that whole system, the zebra mussels have affected the waterways, and a lot of those lakes in the Peterborough areas, they're shallow lakes that have muskies, and the muskie population have been affected because the pike have gotten through the canal system, and the pike are born earlier than the muskies, so the baby pike will eat the new muskies that come in later on in June, right? So anytime you have pike and muskie in the same watershed, there's always going to be more dominant pike. So the muskie fishing is kind of losing here in the what we call the Peterborough Kawartha Lake system, right? Who else? Yeah, it's still live, Chuck. Still going on here. Um, let's see. Okay, so yeah, I'm way up the chat here. I don't know why it's not refreshing here, guys. It keeps showing me the blue arrow to scroll down here, and then it's being sluggish when I'm trying to go through it. So I noticed few people said a few things. Okay. Oh yeah, Colleen says she enjoyed the Niagara video as well. And yeah, going back to Niagara, guys, like, okay, I didn't do much of the tourist stuff. I remember going behind the falls when I was young. I don't think I ever went on the Maid of the Mist, but I decided to go because I heard about the new tunnel attraction. and how they opened up like what they call the tail race, which was the drainage from the old power station when they pour the water through the turbines, and it spills back out into the lake, or sorry, back into the river. I was like, okay, I'll go check out the tunnel. Well, how do you access the tunnel? I couldn't figure it out there, and I didn't put the two together. You got to go through the old power station, and whatnot. So okay, go over there. I look on the map. I judge where it is, and I look. Okay, yeah, it's over there. Okay, walk over there and go in the building. So I go in the building, and it's like this muse. They turned the power station to a museum, right? And all the turbines. It's like a big muffin shape, and then it's got all the perforated holes through it. It looks like a giant like cupcake that's like patterned like a Crocs shoe, and then they're painted like aqua blue, and then they have all the original stuff in there. You know the old numbering that they used to use like 100 years ago and stuff like that. They have it on all the different control boxes and everything, and then they restored a lot of the switch panels and stuff. And I'm in the scrap metal business, so that place is like copper out the yin yang, guys, and like just the big handle switches. And this is my thumbnail picture. The big handle switches, it's like piece of flat bar of copper like this, like half-inch thick. There's four of them together. Then there's like another four, and there's another four, and that's like a switch there. So that's like a how much, I don't know, what's the dollar value on that? That's like maybe 30, $40 of copper for one switch in scrap prices. Imagine that's retail price, right? That's way more than scrap. So you have like a whole line of these things. That's just the handles for the controls. The whole building the whole turbine system uses copper throughout, right? And then the copper to transfer the power to the different lines and everything. Like that place is like a literal like gold mine of copper. So that was one aspect that I like about it. But I like the history. I like the old smell in there. It had the humid smell from the water being close by, and the water constantly being in there from when it was being used, right? And the turbines would heat up the water a bit too from all the spinning, right? And yeah, and then okay, you got to go down the elevator to get into the tunnel. Now, when you go in the elevator, it's a glass elevator, so you can see the whole. You're going down beside one of the old turbines, so you see that big the big turbine shaft. It reminds me of that TV show Oak Island here, which is filmed in Nova Scotia, Canada, right? They use these big caissons to drill holes, looking for the treasure down there, right? So it's like the same kind of thing. This big metal shaft that you had to go down beside in the elevator, and then you get out and then you walk, and then it's this path, 2,200 feet down this tunnel. It's like an egg-shaped tunnel that's all made out of brick. And they redid the floor. They put like concrete. They put a curb on either side, and then they put like river rock on each side for drainage. And you walk down 2,200 feet. It curves because it's going along like that whole walkway where you walk beside the falls. It's going all under that until finally it gets out and then passes out the side of the escarpment, and that's where the water used to spill out back into the river. So as you're coming around that last corner, you start seeing like a blue light at the end of the tunnel. It just gets bigger and bigger until you walk out. And then there's Niagara Falls, Canada side on your right. And, you're at the river level, right? And then you can see the American Falls down on the other side. It's just a crazy view when you get out there. But even the tunnel, they put in it looks like work lamps there. They didn't put in this nice new lighting system and stuff. You know what I mean? It looks like the tunnel's being worked on, like the way the lighting is, like when you go on a construction site, right? But I was blown away by that place, guys, and check out the video after. And it's a long video, yeah, but pop some popcorn and sit back and enjoy that video, because I put about 30 hours into editing into that video. And like I said, I put so much time into these video, guys. I'm making a 12-minute video. I start with an hour and a half of footage for my regular day-to-day firewood splitting videos. I take that hour and a half and I boil it down to like 12-15 minutes, and it really takes me like up to 5-6 hours a video. You know what I mean? So I really enjoy what I'm doing here, guys. And I wish I could be more intricate, but it's just I don't have the time. You know what I mean? I think I do a good job overall, but it's just you have no time for it. Let's get back to the chat here. Heidi, I guess, yeah, you watched the video of Niagara Falls too. Yeah, I like the music that I selected for it, right? And it's been hard to find the copyright music to use, because you have to use no copyright music, because you make the video and then you won't get paid for it. Whoever owns that copyrighted song, they'll get the money for it, right? So actually, the track that I got when you go down the elevator shaft and you walk out to the edge, I found that one, and I was like, a lot of times with things with me, I'm like, okay, well, I hear it and I kind of dig it, but I don't, and it seems weird, or even with clothing, it might not fit right, or I'm not too sure of it. But then after I get really into it, right? So the track that I had going down into the tunnel, it's actually kind of grown on me now, you know what I mean? And I like how I put it in there, right? And I feel like I captured some of the YouTube characteristic with music, you know, that feel that you get from some YouTube videos, you know. So okay, so the U.S. looks best from Canada. Not much to see from the U.S. side looking at us. LOL. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and we used to go to the U.S. side of the Niagara Falls a lot too, right? And I mean, even just coming back home from the U.S., right? Um, yeah, Chuck says, yeah, we spoke about this before. Chuck says he'll have to visit the falls and check it out. Yeah, come over to the Canadian side, man. It's kind of pricey, but for me, it's like it's a vacation. You know, you're gonna spend a little money. Um, I haven't been renting the cottage, so it's okay if I go out and do a little vacation for myself and take a break. You guys know I work hard, man. I'm killing myself here, like really, you know. So I don't mind going out there and spending. You know, if dinner's gonna cost me like $40, it's like whatever, right? But this is another thing too. For all the haters who, you know, when you say I'm going to Niagara Falls, and they go, "What are you going there for?" Right? It's like, okay, so you want to travel. Let's say you're gonna keep it confined to Ontario, right? Um, Even let's say if you went to the U.S., right? You want to do a road trip, so you want to have these things involved. You want to have another city, right? You want to have things to do, right? Now with Niagara Falls, it's like there's nature there, so it's a bonus, right? So I mean, that hotel experience, that's what I like too, right? You go, you rent a hotel room, you have your bags, whatever, you know, you did the road trip, this and that. What other option do you have in Ontario to do? Even if you're leaving Ontario, there's nothing here, okay? If you go if you want to do up north and you want to go to like Sudbury or Thunder Bay, or that's pretty much it. There's not maybe North Bay. These are not huge cities, right? But they're like country cities, right? It's not like a big city like we know, right? You know, Toronto is a lot like, you know, the or other cities in the United States, because we have a very close relation of the two. The like our media, you know, our fashion, all these things. We're very related. We feed off of you guys, like, you know, we're like a mirror of you guys, pretty much, right? But like when you go far north, past like we're talking past the regular cottage country here now. That's like different stuff. That's like towns where it's like it's people who are up there for mining and stuff. You know, like Sudbury is where they mine nickel, right? That's where we get our 5 cents, and they used to use nickel because they get it from the nickel mines up there, right? And so there are towns that were up there because of natural harvesting of the environment. You know what I mean? Those places are also kind of along the shore of, you know, the Great Lakes. So it's a route that you're going to have a road through anyway, right? But unless you're going up there, there's nothing else to do in Ontario. There's nowhere else to go, right? Your own There's no other option for that. I mean, Niagara Falls is a very tiny city because it's all focused on the tourism there. It's extremely tiny, right? There's no set of like office buildings there even for, you know, all these businesses. It's just all tourism there. But you're still getting a big city experience when you go there, you know what I mean? And you have the nature, and there's nowhere else to go. Like, okay, if you cross the border, like what's your next option? Buffalo, right? I can't say what else is close by. Maybe like whatever cities are in Ohio, you know, if you're traveling, right? Anything that kind of stands out other than just the city, right? Niagara Falls, you could say it's a city, a small city, but it has a giant naturescape there. There's nowhere else you can go. The only other place is if you go 5 hours east from Toronto and you go to Montreal. Montreal is like a spectacular place to go, right? Ottawa is the capital of Canada. It's the capital city of the country, and Ottawa's like dead, guys. There's not much going on in Ottawa, you know. So it's if you have a reason to go there, maybe you can make something out of it and whatever. And there's a couple things you can do, but there's nothing really spectacular about going to Ottawa. You know, like you want to do the history thing, and you want to, it's the nation's capital. It's got the Parliament Hill, which is beautiful, by the way. Because when I was in Ottawa for the, with all the trucks and everything, right? It was beautiful because we got there in the evening time, and it's just when it had like that midnight blue kind of color where the sun's gone. You're not really seeing like any bright blue sky, but it was just like a midnight blue sky just before it's getting dark, and it was like minus 20 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit because once you go below 0 Celsius here, I don't know how to convert that. I mean, it's just the opposite when you convert, but I don't know the numbers to convert into whatever, but just well below freezing, guys. Put it that way, well below freezing it was when I got there in the evening, and it was beautiful with all the Parliament building, and the lights and the other buildings around. Like it was really beautiful, guys. But there's nothing to do here other than go to Niagara Falls, right? So I don't know why people frown upon it because it's got the nature. If as a fisherman, I said it's got the big city experience. It's a road trip thing you can do. That's from Toronto. It's an hour and a half, right? Anyways, let's go back to the chat here. William Klein says Wawa has the giant goose. Yes, it does. And my sister told me that someone she knows. Now we originate from the Caribbean, right? So roti is a big dish. So you have curry, and it could be curry shrimp, it could be curry goat, curry chicken, curry beef, curry potatoes, all that stuff. But then they put it in the roti shell, which is just like a dough wrap, right? And you just put the curry in there. And my sister said she knows somebody who said the best roti she had was in Wawa, Ontario, right? Which is, it's not very likely because there's not very many Caribbean people at all who live outside of the major cities. You know what I mean? You'll see them here or there, right? But just not very many at all. And it's not really a big surprise that there's a Caribbean restaurant in somewhere far, but it is still pretty rare. You know what I mean? Heidi's here and there says, have you invested in those safety glasses? No, I haven't. Like I said, I have a hard time wearing safety stuff because it gets cumbersome. Even with clothing, my body's sensitive to like the different types of clothing I'm wearing, right? Like I'm wearing a t-shirt now, and if I was wearing a long sleeve, like same thickness shirt, then I'd probably be like hot by now, right? And that's how much just that little bit of sleeve on my shirt makes a difference. When I have the work light on, just that little band around my head might make a little difference. When I have the earmuffs on, that makes a difference, right? You'll see me when I start splitting wood. I might have my hood on, I'll have my toque on, and I'll have my hearing protection on. And the first 10 minutes, I'm already taking off the earmuffs, taking off the hood because I'm already starting to get hot. And then I'll put back on the earmuffs and I'll start to get hotter, and maybe another 15 minutes, 20 minutes, then I'm taking off the toque and I just got the hearing protection on, right? So I'm very sensitive to like with the safety gear. My visor is getting all clogged up with sawdust, so I can't see. So I'd actually have to bring it from the wood yard and rinse it out and clean it up so I could see better, right? But I just find a lot of stuff is cumbersome when I wear stuff. You know what I mean? And that's why I hate splitting wood in the winter. It's because you have to wear so much gear. I wear underpants. I wear 2 pairs of socks. If it's really cold, I'll wear 3 pairs of socks, right? Wool socks at that, right? So that's keeping up with the laundry and all that stuff. It's taking me an extra like 3-4 minutes to get dressed in the morning to go to work, right? And I hate it. It's like summer, you throw on pants, a t-shirt, underwear, and socks, and you go, right? But I don't do much splitting in the winter because it's just too cold, guys. And I almost got frostbite one time. My hand, one time, I started to shake, guys, and this is beyond like your hands cold. Like when you get your hands cold, you're like, yeah. This day, I was like fretting. I was like, something's got to give. Like something's gonna happen here. It's not like, okay, my hand's cold, I can stop doing what I'm doing and just sit here and I'll be fine. It wasn't even like that. It was like something's wrong here. I'm maybe gonna have a breakdown. I didn't know how it's gonna play out. But it's like, I have to do something about my hand now. So I got this little heater. I didn't go into the shop. I didn't go into I don't think I had the truck there, right? In the wood yard. The truck was probably over at the shop. This is when I was at the old wood yard, right? And I pulled out a little heater from inside the container and I plugged it in outside and I put it on the ground. This heater's like 100 years old, guy. It has the 100 years old, guys. It has like the little shape to it, like it's like sheet metal. It's curved, and then there's a little heat coil inside, and the plug is ancient, right? So I plugged it in. I put my hand over it, and it still hurt, even with the heat. And I kept turning my hand to, try and get the heat going and not have my hand in front of it too much. And I had to do that for about 10 minutes before I got back to normal. But, when you get your hands full of water with the gloves, especially when there's snow on the wood, that's the worst. You know what I mean? You might as well just put your hand right in a bucket of freezing water, right? Like ice fishing. Okay, let's go to the chats. James Bainton says, or Heidi says, yeah, it's got to fit. Yes, that's right. I used to go up and pick up parcels in Niagara Falls on the U.S. side. Yeah, man, I like crossing the border because um, there's the one. It's the Rainbow Bridge that's right near. It's right near the U.S. side, but then further up the river is the Peace Bridge, and I actually mixed that up in my Niagara video, right? Somebody pointed that out for me, so thank you for doing that. But yeah, when you go through the Lewiston border thing, right? The crossing the Peace Bridge, you pass by both power plants there, the Adam Beck on the Canadian side and Robert Moses plant on the other side of the border, right? Did I mix up? Pretty sure Adam Beck's on the Canadian side, right? But what I'm going to do when I go to Niagara next fall is I'm going to go to a tour of the newer power plant, right? So yeah, we don't have the power plants right by Niagara Falls anymore. They're like downriver. All they did was divert water way through the land and to these other power plants, right? And the thing about how they had the first power plant set up in Niagara Falls is the water coming through that tail race tunnel that I entered. It's kind of an eyesore because you have nice Niagara Falls there, and then at the bottom, not right up close to the falls, but I mean, you got such a big view. You're seeing so much down there. But it must have been an eyesore to have another patch of water just pouring out of the side of the escarpment there. You know what I mean? Just leave the falls as it is, and that's all the water that's coming down there. Not this piece of water that's shooting out the side. But I was looking at some of the photos in the historic photos in the buildings around Niagara Falls, and they showed like they just had these contraptions on the side of the escarpment, right? You know how the Industrial Revolution was and that kind of thing, right? And it's just that style of building where they didn't care about looks whatsoever. They just had all these things erected on the thing to serve these purposes, and they were totally degenerative and whatnot. You know what I mean? So it's nice that they keep it nice and clean looking and not have all these big giant concrete structures on the side of the escarpment and everything like that. But speaking of the escarpment, I got a video coming up, guys, and this is pretty cool. So we have Georgian Bay, which is a giant bay that it comes off of Lake Huron. There's a point called Tobermory, which is a really nice area for tourism, and that kind of separates Georgian Bay from Lake Huron, right? So Georgian Bay is this giant part of the lake that kind of weaves in and out at the bottom, and then up at the top it weaves in and out. There's one place called Thousand Islands, and there's just all these big rock islands. But a lot of those islands are all from the glacier. All the rocks there, everything's like smooth, right? They have all these rock islands sticking out, and even the bigger islands, and just all the surfaces there. It's just this nice, like grayish, like tan colored, like rock. It's just all smoothed over from the glaciers. It's not all craggy and stuff, you know what I mean? But the south shore of Georgian Bay is an area called Collingwood, and it's like the escarpment rises up there, and it's like a ski hill. It's like a total like ski resort area that they have over there. And I'm not much into skiing, but I haven't really been up there. But say if you're at Tobermory, which is that cusp between Georgian Bay and Lake Huron, there's a hiking trail that goes from Tobermory all the way down through that nice area, and then it cuts down through like Hamilton, which is the west shore of Lake Ontario, and it goes right to Niagara. So you can do like that's a good percentage of the province Ontario, guys. That is one singular hiking trail. So I went up there to film a video, and it's a place I had been as a kid, and I actually hiked on that trail when I was a kid, and I was maybe 10, maybe 11 years old, and I didn't have any real hiking experience, but we had to go. I was in the Scouts, so we went on this hiking trip on the Bruce Trail, which was for the whole weekend, and it was 27 kilometers, and that would be about what, maybe 17 miles or so, right? And we had to hike that in 2 days. So we did that, and I don't think I was at the back of the group. I was at like the middle group or something, but I just kept walking and catching up with the rest of the group. I had, like I said, we had full pack on, all our clothes, everything. Nothing was driven. We carried everything with us. And I moved up to the front pack that was walking and leading the whole group, right? And I remember one area where we were, and I was trying to find that when I went back up to this place. But anyway, so this shore, Collingwood, where the ski lift is going down towards the water. Now, a lot of the water in Georgian Bay is very shallow too, and it's as big as escape that you can see when you're up on top of the escarpment there. You're seeing like a vast range of like the Great Lakes there, right? But you can tell it's all very shallow. I'm not saying you look way out in the water and it looks shallow, but I mean, I have an eye for water, so I can tell from the shore and look and see, you know, I can tell somewhat that when water's deep. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tell you how deep the water was out there, but it's just when you get the general understanding of the layout around you, then you can kind of judge. Because it's like, say for example, you have the fjords in Norway, where the shoreline is, or sorry, the mountains or the structure on either side, it's very tall, and then the fjords are very deep, right? So it's the same thing at a lake. So, and then you have, like, in contrast, you have our Peterborough, Kawartha lakes here, which are very shallow, and you can see that all the land around it is all very flat land. So obviously the lakes aren't going to be that deep if the land is very flat. You know what I mean? So up on the escarpment, the main site I went to is called Scenic Caves. So it's a cave system that's there, and I'll get back to that in a second. But where you have Collingwood, so I'm looking north now onto this whole south shore of Georgian Bay. So to my left is, like, I'm basically in Collingwood. I'm on top of the escarpment where I'm at this site called Scenic Caves. And you can see, you know, the shore going down this way. You see the shore going down this way, and the whole town of Collingwood is below you. And you can see some of the shoreline jutting out, and they have like a big grain tower there, right? And or whatever it is. And it's just kind of weird. Just the way everything's set up there, it just looks kind of odd. I can't really explain it, right? But you know, you have this small town that's on the shore of the lake, right? But then when you're going over to the right, now it's this giant beach that starts curving, and it goes north like far, and you can see the whole beach, guys. And apparently, like, this is the longest, is it the longest freshwater beach in Canada, or is it the longest beach in North America or something like that? I can't remember, but it's like one of the biggest beaches ever. I think maybe just for freshwater too, right? I can't remember this. I just know so many facts, guys. It's hard to, you know, put two and two together, right? My memory's not as good as it used to be. But yeah, so Wasaga Beach is like a very touristy town. It's like a beach town. It's like a Jersey Shore kind of thing. You know what I mean? The long weekends, it's the same vibe as the cottage. Everybody goes up on the long weekend. It's just flooded. And I actually got to release some footage up there of the Nottawasaga River, because you have the beach shoreline, and then the river that feeds into the lake, it actually runs parallel to the beach. So the whole beach has a river running beside it, and then town is kind of like sprinkled on either side of the river, and then it goes off of the main strip, and then you're just in like the bush, right? So this town is strictly like a lakeside like town. But then once you get past there, then the river, sorry, just zigzags through the terrain, and there's one spot where it's like maybe a 210 degree corner in the river, but that corner, the outside corner, is a giant sand dune that just drops into the water. And I actually went fishing there years ago, and I'm pretty yeah, I mentioned it in that video, so I'm going to release that in the video. There's not much to the video itself. It's actually when I was trying to go to Scenic Caves last year, I believe it was. Yeah, I was trying to go up there, and I was trying to visit my friend who lives in Wasaga Beach, right? But he wasn't around. So I brought my drone up there, and as I got there, these guys were in a boat in the river catching trout, right? And just as I had the drone up in the air, they just landed the trout and threw it back in the water, right? But I'm gonna release that while it's like when I get through all my editing that I've done and I catch up and I don't have anything to do in the winter because I'm not doing much firewood videos in the winter. I'm not splitting much in the winter, right? So I have a bunch of footage that I'm going to release that I have saved up, right? But anyways, now why I was up there, the scenic caves. So what happened is a part of the escarpment, it broke off the top edge and it fell forward, but it didn't fall down the hill. So what happened is it created a cave system at the top of the escarpment, right? So when I got there, I wasted all this time because first I started the trail backwards, right? They said, "Oh no, you're supposed to go that way." I went the other way, whatever. Right? I had the camera. I'm like, "Let's get right into this." So I went up. And then there's a lookout, and that's where you see the whole expanse in front of you: Wasaga Beach, Collingwood, Georgian Bay, all that stuff. And I'm like, "Okay, well, it's time to get to the caves. I don't know where the caves are," and I was reading the map wrong. So I started walking into the bush, and I'm like, well, maybe I find some other stuff here too. You know what I mean? But all it is there's the escarpment, there's the stuff at the edge there, where it broke off. The caves are there, and you walk behind there. All it is like a plateau with forest. There's nothing else really there to it. So I went around, which is the exit, and I went up to the top, and they have the two little areas where they have the railing. You can go and look out the edge. And I think I maybe noticed one stairway there, and or not even, but I didn't really see anything there. And I was right on top of the caves, and I didn't even notice. So I start walking through all the forest, and I'm just like, well, I'll see what I see, and I'll eventually come back around and stuff. I kind of had to watch my time because it's getting later in the day. They close it down, right, and you have to leave. So I spent all this time walking through the forest and I didn't find anything. So okay, I turned around and finally I realized where it was. I got my bearings. I'm good with maps, but I realized that I was looking at where the map was like, I thought I was going west. I was actually going south, right? So I found myself almost like the next roadway, right below the whole thing. So I was like way beyond. So then I'm gonna backtrack and do a circle around. I was up high on elevation. I came around back down the side. And then I was at the bottom near the entrance and where I came in kind of, but then I had to cut through into the bush and then go back up to where I was originally at the top of the hill where the lookout is. That's where all the caves are. You can't even see them when you're up there, right? The signage is no good, nothing. They have a zip line up there and it was closed, but these people, they climbed over the thing and they went up the stairs and they went and stood up there for the view, right? That zip line goes like way down there, like way down to the bottom of the valley, like basically the water's edge, right? Or it's not the water's edge, but the what's the word? Water level or yeah, lake level, right? Right to the bottom of the hill, basically. So now I go back to the lookout. I'm looking around. I look down, I see it's this craggy rocks and stuff. I look down, I see this staircase. The staircase is like this wide, right? It's got the metal railings and it's got the little tiny stairs. So I'm like, oh, that's part of it. That's part of the cave. So I start walking down there. Then I start realizing these things are all over the place and I totally passed it, right? So like I said, they didn't have good signage there, you know what I mean? I'm missing some chat here. Let me just go back to the chat quick before I get into this story. Okay, so yeah, typical Canadian winter wardrobe. Yeah, we gotta put on all kinds of stuff here, man. Underpants, wool socks, all those things. You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah, Bucking Firewood is up in McCarroll, Ontario. Like I said, I'd like to get up there, but even the gas price is a lot, man. I was going up to Huntsville a lot, which is 2 hours away, and that used to cost me like $70 one way, right? Now that's costing me like the prices like I can get for $1.50. It was like $1 a liter at the time, maybe a little under $1, thanks to Donald Trump and his cheap gas prices, right? But I had no problem going up to Muskoka, and I was starting off like northwest of the city, like right beside the highway. So I was already shaving off like a half hour off of my 2 hour drive to go up there. And I'd stop at the same places I did the Nature Walk Tree ID videos at the Lions Lookout in Huntsville and High Falls and Bracebridge, right? I love that drive. I love the region. So it's fun being able to go up there all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah, Colleen says that'd be cool country to see. Definitely. Um, I guess I better hit the hay. Okay, good night, Colleen. I know you're on the farm, so that means you gotta get up early. Tim Stout. Night, everyone. Heading out. Need to get up early tomorrow. Yeah, unfortunately, I should be getting up early, but it's kind of not my style, guys. You know. Yeah, good people's here. Anybody who doesn't know the Woodhound community, we all go on the live stream every Friday at Back 40 Firewood, and that's how I know everybody here, first name basis, and the other Firewood channels and whatnot. So yeah, great community, guys. But anyway, Scenic Cave. So yeah, so the natives, they used to use the caves there. One of them is this deep hole, and with a small entrance. Well, the entrance looked like it's squared out, like maybe, I don't know, they put cement in it or whatever. But the cave itself, the natives would use it for a fridge, right? Because, and there was another deep cavern where the snow and the ice would melt till like July, right? Excuse me. So yeah, they used to use it to store their food there over the seasons, and they guard it too. You know what I mean? Excuse me. But yeah, very interesting place, and I feel like there's some other places that are like that in the area. And I know when I was doing that hiking when I was young, we were in that area, and there was some other place with these staircases and another hill you walk down, and like a building, like a tourist center or something like that. I can't remember, but I've been trying to find that. And ever since 2020 hit and we couldn't really do anything here, I've been trying to drive around the province and see the different sites and even end up in places that I have been to when I was a kid, right? So I've really been trying to explore this beautiful province, and I really appreciate the lifestyle that we have here. And I grew up, not grew up, but when I got into fishing, I started watching all these TV shows about Ontario. I'd see these guys who they just be up in Muskoka, and they're just driving down the road, and they spot a small lake on the side of the road, and they just take out their fishing rods and they cast out to go fishing around there. You know what I mean? And then I started having friends who have cottages and started going up there. Like my friends who had a cottage, they bought the place when they were 21. What happens when you're 21? When you're in cottage, right? Long weekend, it's like 30 people up there. Like it's a total zoo, right? You get into the boats and the jet skis and everything, and we all go down to this big slab rock, and we just chill on the side of it and pull up there. And one guy, he was good with the water skis, so they had the slalom course, so he'd go and he'd do the slaloms and the water ski course, right? And I was really heavy into, like, really excited about the fishing. Now it's kind of like, okay, well, I like to do it, but the novelty is worn off, you know what I mean? But I was just so excited. I get up early in the morning to go fishing and stuff, and I'd be out there like all day. I wouldn't come back till like I'm starving or like the sun's down, you know what I mean? And it's funny because I like to cook and have all this stuff to do, but I just put everything off because I like doing all the fishing, right? But good times up there and lots of people, lots of fun. But Scenic Caves, I'm going to be releasing that in about, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I'll try and release it on the Sunday because it's a little bit of a longer video. And yeah, very, very interesting place. And I'm going to start looking at some photos online to see if I actually missed anything there. It didn't seem like I missed anything there, but it must be some other stuff that was like is in that area that is similar that they have too, because there's other places that they have lookouts and all these different things there, right? So I got to try and go back up there again. But now it's too cold to do anything, and who knows, maybe I'll do a nice drive in the winter. I know some nice spots, like when you have like tons of snow and everything's just covered in snow. I know some really nice places to drive. So I was thinking of just doing a driving video. I like doing the information and telling people what's what and what things are and pointing out stuff like that. But I wouldn't mind just doing one where you put music and you're just driving and going through the roads and all the trees are covered in snow and the frozen river beside the road and stuff like that. I love that too. Winter I hate, but it's nice if you're inside in the warm car or you're inside the warm cottage, right? With some firewood going and whatnot. But I hate being out in the cold, guys. So I'm going to have to sum this up pretty soon. It is getting late, so people are going to start dropping off. And as some people have been, because it's Sunday night, they got to go to bed in the morning. I thank you guys all for staying here too. Whoever's gone so far, and I bet you even gave me a few minutes extra time too. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's I've gone through most of my list here about what it's like at the new wood yard. But one thing I didn't talk about is the wildlife. So I see like there's a forested area beside me. And there's a parkette just beyond that. It's not as thick forest as I thought. It's not a forest, guys. It's really wooded in a very tiny piece of property. And then there's like a parkette on the other side, right? I thought it was a lot more woods there, but it's not. There's a lot of woods in the area there because there's a river valley to my west, and then there's a lot of forest to the east, and then there's another river valley up the road and stuff, right? But there's a lot of trees around in general, so there's a lot more wildlife than where I was at the old wood yard. So there's rats, mice, raccoons, squirrels, um, fox. Oh yeah, at another place at the camera shop, I saw a fox out in like two main suburb roads, out like in the afternoon, right, or the early evening. One was out there, but also at the shop at the wood yard, there's rabbits and gophers there all the time. So there's always something scurrying, and I never see the birds come down to the wood pile, but I'm usually not there in the day with the chainsaw cutting up wood. But at night, after I do some cutting, you'll see the rats or the mice come into the wood pile because they know the smell of the inside of the tree, and they know that bugs live inside the tree, right? So they will actually come out into the wood pile. So let's say I do my cutting, and I go to take a break for a minute, then then I'll see a rat or a mouse kicking around in the snow there. You know what I mean? Um, okay. So Heidi says, "Do you mind driving in snow?" Well, I drive a truck, right? 4x4. I love driving in the snow. I've had trucks pretty much the whole time I was driving. I did have a Toyota Matrix, which is like a little rally car in the snow. It's only two-wheel drive, and I bought that car because of just changing situations in my life, and I didn't mind saving the gas. People are like, the Toyota Matrix is a Corolla, and I told people I'm gonna buy a Corolla, man. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, damn right I'm gonna do it. I have reasons to do it, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna save gas for once in my life, right? Now, I had two Toyota 4Runners with a four-cylinder engine, which was cheap on gas, over 20 years ago. So the gas wasn't costing me much, right? And I even remember one time going for gas, and I was like, I didn't have much money at the time. I put $5 of gas in to go downtown just for a little rip and come back, right? $5 was like enough. But I had those two trucks. And then I had my third 4Runner, which is a V6, just guzzled the gas, right? So because I have a bigger boat, I was burning out the head gasket in my truck. I was putting my V6 4Runner under too much strain. So I said, I got to get another truck, but I have other life situations why, like, I'm going to be getting rid of the car, right? And, it's probably another truck's working into that situation at the time, but I even had my work truck, which I actually used one time to go up to the lake where I go fishing. So, um, I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just buy the car and then I won't have a truck and I'll actually be saving some money on gas because my Toyota 4Runner with the V6 engine, so I would get 300 kilometers, that's about 200 miles, and for 65 liters of gas, and I don't remember what the price was like. It's between a dollar and 10 probably, maybe a dollar, yeah, maybe a dollar 10, dollar 20 at most. I remember in 2008 the gas price went up to like a dollar 34 a liter here, which is, I'm trying to describe this for you guys in the US. So if we went 130 a liter, so you times 4, so 260, and so 520, so call it just under $5 Canadian for a gallon. So it's about $4 a gallon at that time, right? $4, maybe a tiny bit less. And yeah, for 65 liters, I would only, or so, well, how many would 65 liters be? I'm talking about the price, but I'm trying to figure out how many liters for you guys. So 65 liters, divide that by 4. So 60, 15 and 16. So maybe about 14 gallons and I get 300 kilometers, or sorry, 200 miles. That's like nothing, man. So I was wasting a lot of gas in that truck, especially when I was pulling my boat, even if it was just me and I was going for a day trip. Not like if I had passengers, if I had all my gear for a week long trip, just costing me money, and the bigger boat was too heavy, so I got rid of that and I used the car for about a year and a half. And I got my Costco gas card, so I was even getting cheaper gas, so I saved a lot of money on gas. And then now I have the Chevy Tahoe, which is bigger than my 4Runner, and I got 80 more horsepower. And or is it 80, or how much is it? No, the old 4Runner was, no, it's more than that, man. How many? Why am I forgetting how many horsepower the Tahoe is? Um, it's 295 horse. So yeah, I got double the horsepower. I was comparing it to the Toyota Tacoma, which I want. I always bring up that figure about how I wanted the smaller Tacoma than the bigger Tahoe, right? I was about to say 80 um, horsepower difference, but no, from my 4Runner to the Tahoe, it's 150 horsepower difference, right? And the Tahoe is way better on gas. So I'm actually in a good position with owning a truck in order to pull a boat. I'm not saying a truck is fuel efficient overall. Obviously a truck is a truck, but I'm just saying for a truck, it's really good on gas. You know what I mean? So, yeah, driving in the snow. I used to have with my first two 4Runners, they had um, they had manual hubs. So even though you put the thing in 4x4, you had to get out and you had to turn the two dials on the inner hubs to engage the front end, right? So somebody joked with me, well, if you want to like get away from the cops and you want to drive into the bush and whatnot, right? You got to stop and you got to tell them to hold on and wait for me to engage the front hubs so that I could keep driving in four-wheel drive mode, right? And then the next 4Runner was automatic, and then the Tahoe's automatic too, right? But we had a funny commercial here one time. I can't remember what it was for. I think it was for insurance, maybe. I can't even remember. But anyway, it's the theme of the commercial was it's a Canadian car chase, or a Canadian police chase. So it's snow everywhere. It's got the criminal with his car, and his car's stuck in the snow, so he's trying to push his car, right? And then the cop car is behind him, chasing him, but the cop car is trying to chase him by the cop pushing the cop car, right? So it's two guys trying to push the car, trying to get away. You know what I mean? It's a hilarious commercial, right? But yeah, driving in the snow, I love it, man. And I would purposefully go out sometimes just when it's snowing, just to have fun in the snow. Now with the Tahoe, I got to shut off the traction control because it's going to engage it and then prevent the slipping and stuff like that, right? So I got to take it off and actually, but I can actually have fun with the truck now because my truck was lifted. The guys who installed the lift kit, they didn't put in the drop spacer for the front differential. So my two CV axles in the front are on bad angle, so it'd rip off the boot and then I'd have grease coming in there. So what I did was I put the spacers in and then it dropped the whole front differential down. So now my CVs are on an easy angle because the harder the angles are, is they're always spinning all the time. So it would eat them up prematurely, and even before they get eaten up and unusable, the boot would tear off, and then so all the grit and stuff would get inside where the grease is and then mess everything up, right? I even had the first time I got that replaced, because I had two replacements of the CV shaft, right? They had to yank the whole thing out and put it back in. But the first time they did, it was so damaged, I couldn't really tell. I know the truck was making noise and doing a little shaking, but when they started bolting everything, the whole shock assembly just fell apart, right? But then I finally got that fixed out this year, so I don't have to worry about using the four-wheel drive system. And even the first time I got that repair done, my four-wheel drive system wasn't even working properly, right? Because whatever had eaten up so much. But I had one guy took it. I told him to repair it, and he said, "Oh no, that's going to cause you a big problem. It might just like explode like while you're on the road or whatever, right?" And I said, "Well, how would you know like it's really bad?" He says, "Well, it starts making a lot of noise." Well, I was driving it for like over a year like that, guys, right? So I think what the old owner did was he was having that problem, and that's why he sold the truck to me. And he told me, "Oh, there's no problems." But anytime people sell a vehicle, that's it's because there's a problem with it. If you have like somebody who knows about their vehicle, right? Maybe it's somebody who um, their mechanic figured out the problem and told them to sell the truck or whatever. When you have people who are more in the know of their own vehicle because they know about it and they know about the mechanics and everything, they're selling it because they have a reason to, right? So I think that's why this guy sold me the truck. But I got it sorted out, and it was just a simple thing: buy this $40 or $50 kit off of eBay and then get them to install it, right? Unfortunately, it cost me a couple CV shafts, and both jobs were like $1,000, right? So $2,000 each, about 1,600 Canadian. But now I got it sorted out, and I'm not going to be going through CVs, and I can blast through the snow this winter, all I want. Okay, moving through. I don't think I'm missing anything in the chat here. Check out Arrowhon, or do you mean Arrowhead Park in winter, or Arrowhon? Let me look that up. Let me Google that. I don't want to say you made a typo. Let me check it out. My phone just froze up there for a second, but we're still going here. Okay, I want to do some winter stuff though. I gotta blow my nose. I'm starting to get sniffly here. One sec, guys. I'm gonna get another beer while I'm at it too. There goes the tripod. I don't know. I thought I wouldn't have much to say, but I guess there's a lot to say. If I could even talk about the experiences with this Firewood channel. But hey, I like talking about up north here, So winter, yeah, I'd like to figure out something to do, I mean, I remember I went on one winter drive, and I thought my clutch needed to be replaced, but it wasn't my clutch, and I had this problem before. What happened with the Forerunners is it has this plate for the clutch assembly that bolts onto the floor of the truck. What happens, it would break in the corner, and then it would cause, when you push in the clutch, it wouldn't let the clutch pedal engage and do what it was doing. So I thought I needed a clutch. So I get the clutch done, and then I go on this drive, and I'm way up in out of town, and I was with my ex at the time, and we're just driving around enjoying these sights in Muskoka, the part that I don't really go to, and around some of the canal systems too. And I'll tell you what they have there is a really cool part of the canal system. But anyways, I find myself and I'm not able to shift. So I just got pissed off, right? I have to turn around now, but it was starting to snow too. So I said, okay, well, you know what? Let's not get caught in a snowstorm. Let's just turn around and head it in. So then I found out later, because I even got the guys to do a warranty claim on the truck, right? And then it wasn't that. It was the stupid plate that I had to order, like an aftermarket one, or maybe one from Toyota, that was reinforced, right? And then everything was okay after that, Okay, so I'm going to look up Arrowhon Park. Okay, oh, it's only with one R, not two R's. So not much of a typo at all. You know what, James? I found out there's a lookout that I went to. It's in Algonquin Park, and it's off of Highway 60, and it's not too far from Huntsville. So maybe for next year's tree ID video, that I will go up to that area. Now that's I'm figuring it's about only maybe half an hour from Huntsville. So I like the driving. I gotta watch driving too much with the gas prices. That's one thing. Hopefully it's not higher next fall, which it probably will be, right? But it's not too much off course. But I really gotta plan my day ahead and make sure I have time to do everything, because it's hard to drive to 3 different sites, right? I go to the first site, High Falls, which is right beside the highway, and then the new place I went to, or the other place when I went to the, Huckleberry Point Rock at the big lookout when I did last year's tree ID video. That's, you got to go northwest from Bracebridge. And what I like doing is driving through the interior too, right? Like, okay, you go through Muskoka, you go on the highway. You go to High Falls, it's right beside the highway. You go to Lions Lookout in Huntsville, it's like 5 minutes off the highway. But I like seeing what's off of the highway. You know what I mean? So that place was kind of off route, but not quite as north as Huntsville. So I had to kind of draw back and get back to the highway and get on the highway again and go north up to Huntsville. When I went to this year's Nature Walk Tree ID video in Dorset, I had to go off to the east from after High Falls, and I had to east and north, and then when I came over to Huntsville, I had to track back over to the west and then back on the highway, and then go to Lions Lookout again, right? And so I like doing those interior drives. I'll tell you about a cool drive that I used to do. But so for that one, I have to go up to the lookout there. I remember going there as a kid, and I know it's the same spot. I've seen this photo in a lot of different places, and I'm trying to figure out where it is because sometimes people, it's in posts, and I ask like, where is that place, and they don't get back to me or whatever. But I remember distinctly because it's just a rock edge, and the memory is not too distinct exactly how the rock edge is. There's a lot of places with rock edges here, and when you look out, there's some that are on the edge of Lake Superior. There's some that are on the edge of the Lake Huron and stuff like that. But it's not that with the Great Lakes. You know what I mean? This place is just a whole forest, like a valley. There's a little bit of rising terrain, but then there's a small patch of water in one area. And that's why I remember this site from when I was a kid. So I think I'm pretty sure I actually found it. It's off Highway 60 in Algonquin, right? I see James, you got to go. Thanks for staying so long, man. Yeah, 8:30 meeting tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, let me know if you still want to split some wood. That pile I left for you, I still have some there. I went through it this Saturday. But yeah, let me know if you want to come through because I'm going to start getting into it, right? I didn't split everything on the weekend because I didn't have time for one thing, but it's all like black locust there. And as you know, I'm spreading it in my crates, and not putting all in one crate and then all in the next crate. So there's still some there. If you want to come by and split some wood, let me know, man. I'll send you a text because you might even be gone at this moment, right? But anyways, have a good night, man. Thanks for coming through. He says he lives right near the not too far from the wood yard, and he has a Easton made splitter, and he's going to bring it by the yard. But he's been busy, you know what I mean? Okay, yeah, I heard. Okay, he's got 10 days off of Christmas. That's right, you were saying if anything, you were going to come around Christmas. So we'll see. I'll try and pace it out. I'm going to try and get more wood in and do as much as I can before the weather gets too cold. So hopefully that pile's still sitting there for you, and then the weather's okay, because if it's too cold, I'm not going to be there, you know what I mean? But we could still have some okay weather that we'll be able to split wood in the winter, especially if you come on the weekend, it's during the day, because most of the time I'm splitting at night when it's colder. So if it's like, say 0 degrees, -1, +2 during the day, that's a lot more easier for me to do. But I mean, you're probably not going to come in the evening anyway, so that shouldn't even be part of the equation. So we should be able to have some okay weather by then. We might get a cold snapper or two in December, but who knows, it might be okay. We've had some mild Christmases before, right? So hopefully I see you soon, man. What else? I'm actually using my phone now instead of the whatever. Thanks for staying here, Heidi. Thanks for supporting. Um, okay, yeah, I see James said about Arrowhead. No, it wasn't Arrowhead. Yeah, it was Arrowhorn. But yeah, I'm just looking at pictures here. And I could turn the phone around, but the laptop screen might be too bright. Um, yeah, I really want to get out and explore, man. Dress up, just go for a walk a little bit, hop out of the truck for a little bit, jump back in, and maybe see something else. But anyways, another spot that oh geez, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, okay. So when I went for that drive in the winter, and what year was that? That was probably winter 2014. So you have the canal system, the Trent Severn Canal. Now I'm experiencing at this point the canal on the um, Severn side, which is Simcoe is like between the Trent and Severn canals. So now I'm in the Muskoka side with the Severn canals, which I've never really seen before. I might have seen one, that's it. So we're driving through the area, and this one is called the Marine Railway. And what it is your two lakes. You know, one's at one level, one's at the bottom, obviously, right? You know, you're trying to commute from one lake to the other, right? And you got to deal with the elevation. It's got the natural waterfalls on one side, right? And then it's got this giant platform that, like, the platform is above your head when it's on, like, on the ground, right? Big platform. It's on like train track wheels, right, or axles, and it's on a cable system. And what it does is it lowers down the hill into the water. It sinks under the water. You pull your boat up onto it. A few boats, couple boats on either side, right? Like I said, the small pleasure crafting boats, not any big boats or cargo, nothing like that. No Great Lakes cargo ship. No, it's just cottage lakes, like, people having fun with their little pleasure craft, right? Um, Pull up your boat, your jet skis, whatever, onto the thing. You tie them up. Then the cables pull this platform up the railway tracks, and then it goes up into the, like, it crests over top of the water, and then the platform drops back down into the water on the other side, and then you just untie your boat and you drive off, right? So that was pretty cool seeing that thing there. Of course, it was winter, so it was not in, excuse me, it's not in operation, right? But excuse me, it's just the type of things that they built. It was insane, man. Just seeing that kind of stuff, like, who comes up with these ideas, right? Now, maybe there it was a little tough to put in the canal because there's a little bit of a drop. You know what I mean? It's not extremely high, but it was more steeper grade than some of the places where one lake drops into the other, right? But yeah, it's just one of those locks basically here along that system. You know what I mean? And I had fished in Sparrow Lake, which is just west of there. And Sparrow Lake's a bit of a shallow lake, and it's a bigger lake in one of those areas. Not that big overall, right? But yeah, just in that beautiful area of Muskoka, which is on Georgian Bay, which is all like the rocks that's been smoothed over by the glaciers and stuff, right? I like to spend more time up there too. I remember one time we went ice fishing in Honey Harbor, and Honey Harbor is a cool place because I think they had a little bit of elevation in some areas on the shoreline, but we're in this. It's when I say harbor, it's just kind of like this little inlet that is just like this water channel that kind of filtered through. You know what I mean? And it's like there's a couple of rock islands and stuff like that. And it was winter, so we were ice fishing. We didn't even have a hut that time, and I'm used to like using an ice hut, right? But it was a sunny day. It was very cold, like -10. I was like freezing my ass off, but it was just beautiful. This nice little inlet, and it's part of Georgian Bay, so it's part of the Great Lakes, but it's off of the main lake. It's just kind of it's like in an inlet area, but it was just beautiful the way that it was set up, and it was a lot more like one of the small cottage lakes instead of like a vast Great Lakes like bay close to shore. You know what I mean? Um, Another cool spot, which is now this is not the Georgian Bay side. This is the Lake Huron side now. So you have another beach that's similar to Wasaga Beach, like I was describing, is near Collingwood and the Scenic Caves. When you go past Tobermory, now you're on the Lake Huron side. There's another long beach there called Sauble Beach, and then north of Sauble Beach is an area where it's the natives they call them the fishing islands, where the natives used to go fish for whitefish, right? But around there, these islands they're sizable, but the water's all shallow around there. So I guess the fishing was maybe more out on the water or more out on the main lake. But these islands were kind of like sheltering the main lake from the rest of the bay there. Now the funny thing with this bay is, like, okay, let's say you're driving along the road and you see this beach, and you're like, okay, there's a beach there. It's the middle of summer. Why is nobody like in the water and stuff like that? You know what I mean? You can drive right on the beach, everything. Like there's a beach down the street. Everybody's there. You can drive on the beach, everything. You know what I mean? But it's like why is there no people at this beach? Well, it's because say you get out your vehicle, you know, you park on the beach and you walk out and you look around and then you realize why there's nobody on the beach. You look like a half a mile out and there's a guy walking his dog on the lake, right? It's because the water is so shallow. This like you want to walk in the water and play in the water. The water's in your ankles for like 1,000 feet, right? So it's no water that you can actually dip into and swim around and stuff. You have to go like way out there. Like I said, you look half a mile out there and there's somebody walking his dog, right? So it's an extremely shallow section. It's like a giant puddle, but it's so vast. It's huge, this area, right? Funny thing is, you'd see boats coming out. Well, what it is there's a little marina. There's like a little harbor there and a small marina, and they actually like trenched out a channel, so you can take your boat and you can go through that channel and you can get out to the main lake if you have to, right? But yeah, I used to go up there to Sable Beach because my friend has his wife's grandmother has a cottage up there, and we used to go up there and hang out. And up there, it's just like Wasaga Beach, so it's like a resort town kind of thing. There's lots of little rental. It's not really like cottages, like how we have the cottage life here, right? It's a lot of like there are some cottages that are like that, but it's on like say like a cul-de-sac or like a little neighborhood, but it's just little houses you can stay at kind of thing. You know, you have the street goes down this way, you have the intersecting streets, you have the little properties, the small like backyard, small front yard. You know, then it has the little like the motels and all that stuff all around. Then it has a strip with all the place you can buy the funnel cakes and you know little amusements and this and that. It's like all of that stuff, you know. And but it's just really nice place to be. And they have Sauble River just north of Sauble Beach, so you can see the salmon running in the spring. You know what I mean? And beautiful area. I haven't been up there in wow. When's the last time I've been up to Sauble Beach? Oh, I know when. It's 2012. I took a couple of friends up there with me, and they were new to like my friends up there, so we all kind of connected. We had a lot of fun together, you know. But that was a good year, 2012. I went camping with those guys. Um, what else did I do? I did a lot of outdoor stuff that year. I obviously had my um, had a rental cottage. I'm trying to remember what exactly happened that year, but I remember it was good fishing that year too. And yeah, I think I rented that cottage at the end of July. Yeah, because when we went camping, we went in the middle of August, and I remember it was like 2 weeks after I'd come back from my other trip. But sorry, I forgot to tell you guys about the cool drive that I used to go on. So my friend's cottage that I used to, um, we grew up, not grew up, but like in my 20s, when we started going there every year, then I started renting his cottage, right? So I'd rent the cottage for a week. I'd go up there. I'd come back home, and I'd rent it like middle of July. And then after the first couple of years, I said, "Cheers, guys! 2,500 subs." So I said, "Why am I planning this trip separate? Then I come home, and then in 2 weeks, I go back up to another lake that's like an hour away. How about I book both trips back to back?" So what I started doing was, um, I think maybe the first year I rented just due to availability. There was like 3 years I rented. I can't remember what I did when, which year, but two out of the three times I rented at the end of June. So bass season is open middle of June. I'd rent then the last week of June, July 1st. Excuse me, is our holiday, right? Canada Day, and that's when I go up to my other lake. So what I did was I booked that trip to go back to back with my other trip. Now the cool part about it was um, where my friend's cottage was. You'd have to go up around the top side of the lake, past the beach, then drop down the side, and you'd be at his cottage. So if you're leaving, you can either still go south and cut back to the highway where you came in, or you can go up across the beach and you can go down. But this way we had to go the other way, and we had to start going east. and then you go through this place. There's a cool like a big curve in the road around this hill, right? The hill's just there to, sorry, the road is just avoiding the hill. All it does is do this huge curve around this hill coming down the side of the road, right? And then we'd stop in town. We take back the beer bottle and liquor bottle empties and refresh with more. We get a couple of groceries. I already have a lot of food with me to bring to the other place, right? Do all my gourmet cooking at the nice big cottage, you know, like that has everything in it. And the other place I'm going to is a rustic cabin, so I have stuff that's easy to cook, and I just buy a couple things that I need for later, right? That maybe I ran out of, or I just need some extras or whatever. And then we drive a little bit more on the highway, take a right, go down south a bit, take another road, go northeast a little bit. Then you take this one road, and it's an hour through the bush, and there's nobody there. You might see some people on ATVs, right? Going because it's like trail systems through there, right? So you might see people on ATVs, but you're going like an hour right through the bush until finally you start getting close to the lake and you just see through the trees. You see the backside of the lake and the two islands that I used to camp out on. You could just see those islands through the trees while you're coming there. So it's a little bit historic, the view that I'm seeing there, because that's where I started fishing at that lake. I started camping on the islands at the backside of the lake, but I had to drive to the cabins on the other side of the lake, right? So it was nice doing that little trek right through the bush, and right in the middle there's a spot where it's like rocky and it had like a little bit of a waterfalls going through, and we just stopped there for a minute. But sometimes it's so bad with the black flies, like you can't even stop, you know what I mean? Remember one time I had to take a leak and I got out like it's nothing, but then I had to jump back in the truck because the deer flies were ridiculous, you know. So I actually had to go pee, holding the door open and driving, and peeing out the door while I was driving. You know what I mean? It was hilarious. I couldn't save it. I still had to go like another half an hour, so I had to go right then and there, right? But I missed those days, man. And my friend, he sold his cottage, and that was the end of that. But that cottage is beautiful, nice A-frame cottage, and a little sandy beach in front of him, an island in front of him, and like blocking off the main lake from his cottage. You could see the main lake off to the right. He had a nice shallow bay to the left, and the sun and the moon would rise in that bay. And we really enjoyed going to that cottage, waking up in the morning, the sun's right there. You have your coffee down at the water's edge, you know what I mean? And nice July mornings when it's not too hot, right? End of June, all that stuff, right? But what's going on here? There's another you know what? I got to load back up the chat here. I missed something, and I got another super chat coming in. I got to keep up on this, guys. Hello, Anthony from Indiana. Barry Thompson, how you doing? And oh, I'm not surprised you're here. Adventure Roads, how you doing, Josh? Thank you for the super chat. Nice, man. Thank you. Okay. James Bainton said, "Do you still have the 40-yard bin to fill?" I have a garbage can of scraps for you. Lot of crotchwood ash. Yeah, man. Okay, I'll send you a text because you're probably gone by now. But yeah, yeah, I have some. I have room for the in the bin. Actually, if you have that stuff, I have to sell the firewood that's in the bin, and I have another load of boiler wood that's on the ground, and I'm adding to that so we can dump your wood in that pile, and then go from there. Yeah, thanks for the congrats, Josh and Autumn. Thank you very much, man. You know, I think I'm pretty close to how many subscribers you guys have too. I know you guys have been around for a bit, and I'm catching up to you, you know. Heidi says touristy. Yeah, I'm very touristy, man. I like we grew up touring, right? We grew up road trips, you know, every year, right? Even places in Ontario, Canada, 125, Canada's 125th birthday. We went to Ottawa, right? I remember that trip, man. And what else have we done? We used to fly to Trinidad growing up as kids, and even we did some road trips down there. And down in Trinidad, you tell them you're driving 2 hours. They're like, that's like a whole day to them because everything is relatively close. But the problem in Trinidad is the traffic is so bad. It seems like, you know, a drive is 2 hours anyway, right? Because what happened down there was like when I used to go back in the late 80s and early 90s. Like all the cars were old, like not that old, not like Cuba old, right? Like 70s cars and stuff, right? And I was there in the 80s and 90s, and when I think about it, those cars weren't too old, you know what I mean? Nothing I don't really remember when I think about it. Nothing really there from the '60s, right? Troy Willis, Andre, smiling proud brother, cheers up. Yeah, man, thanks, bro. Any other chats I'm missing? No, I'm all caught up there. Okay. Yeah, and then when I went 2005, it's like every car was like almost new because what they're doing is getting the cars from Japan that because of Japan's emissions laws, they would you couldn't hold your car past like 80,000 kilometers or 50,000 miles. So they made you like get rid of the car. So all those cars started going to like overseas, and even here, so many people. When you had like the days of people souping up their little um, uh, import cars, like their Honda Civics and their Volkswagen Golfs and everything, like the early 2000s, a lot of people started buying Japanese engines because you know the Honda back in Japan they don't have Acura, right? So you could get all the stuff that was like Honda, but it was like souped up stuff. It was like higher horsepower. You know, say you get a twin cam engine instead of single cam engine, and people are actually buying those engines and those cars. They were even importing the whole cars and bringing them to Canada, right? But what happened in Trinidad was they started bringing all those cars there. So it was quite a contrast. You know, like this third world country had all these old cars. Then you go back like what, just over a decade later, and it's like all new cars. You know, it's really weird to see, man. It's like a time travel. You know, but yeah. So road trips, I love it, man. I'm all about it. I like to drive to Montreal, which is 5 hours east of me. I like to drive to Quebec City, which is really historic. Quebec is it has the only walled city in all of North America. Did you guys know that? A walled city because there's like a fort, right? Because there's so much trade with the fur trade. Um, Back in the I guess it's the 1700s, right, with the Hudson's Bay Company and doing all the trapping and importing the furs, right? That happened right up to right through the province of Ontario, you know, and then even like Niagara Falls, the history of it, it's the trade routes, right, all along the St. Lawrence River, right? Fort York in here in Toronto, like Toronto used to be called York, and they had a fort here protecting like the shores of Lake Ontario. You know what I mean? I think there was some forts in Niagara Falls as well, right?